11th, 2023. The legal notice required in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied, and statement certifying same will be executed. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Santiago, roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Goldberg.
Here.
Mr. Trachtenberg.
Here.
Mr. Schuster.
Here.
Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Mr. Woodford.
Here.
Mr. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Yes, okay. Mr. De Hansen.
Here.
And I'm Sonia Santiago here. And Mr. Oler.
Here. What you did with it?
No. Right.
Yes.
Right. I know. Haven't heard from him. Okay. First matter is BA-14-23. I understand that's on just to set a date for a special meeting. Is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. We announced this date for the sole purpose of selecting a date into the future, and the applicant has requested a special meeting as well. And his counsel is here.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Tolo, can you do me a favor?
Yes.
Can you turn that microphone on, please? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so at our last hearing, we were told that the first available was February 24th, I believe. So we had requested the board grant us a special meeting following reorg, but before that February 24th meeting. There are two dates that we would like to ask for the board's availability on January 29th or January 30th.
Okay. I'm okay with the 29th. How do we proceed on this?
Mr. Bartello, I did poll the board for those dates, okay? For January 29th, I have 6 members, and same thing for the 30th.
Hmm.
So,
It's okay.
okay?
Yeah.
So will the 29th will be good for everyone?
Not good for me.
Not good for you.
December? Are you providing a
January.
transcript? Did you have
We
a
had a
court
quick-
reporter?
Yes,
we had a
yes.
You
quick
did, right? So
reporter.
you're going to provide the transcript?
Sure. Yep.
And that'd be helpful then.
Absolutely.
I don't suspect we would conclude on that 29th or 30th.
That's
so
why I
it'd be
said it's
helpful When we
okay.
get the 7th member.
Uh,
Are you available on the 30th, Mr. Kramer?
I am available on the 30th.
I'm not available on the 30th, but Jim could handle the meeting.
Right.
We still only have 6, just a different 6.
6, and if Mr. Kramer on the 30th, that would be 7.
Why don't we do it on the 30th then?
Okay.
We need a motion or anything? or-
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to have a special meeting for the SLOC Acquisitions LLC application for January 30th at 7 p.m., correct?
7 p.m. in this room. Yes.
Yes. Is that a motion?
Move that we have a special meeting on the 30th of January, Tuesday, the 30th.
Okay, have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
Okay, so for members of the public, this application will be carried to January 30th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in this room. There'll be no further notices from the applicant.
Thank you very much, board, and have a great holiday season.
You're going to get.
Frank, I do want to remind you,
Yes.
though, that there's a fistful of things that
Yes.
we were waiting on, right? Most important is the fire department.
And I was just informed that my client is meeting with the fire department tomorrow.
Okay.
So we should have something to to you guys end of this week or early next week.
Whatever you're going to resubmit, we need 10 days in advance
Yes.
of that January meeting, so
Yep.
by the 20th, right?
You got it.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
great. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Okay.
holidays.
Next is BA-15-23, Sharon and Scott Bertram. We have correspondence on that.
Mr. Chairman, we have a letter from the applicant's attorney, Simone Cali, just indicating they had some issues with witness availability for this evening and requesting that the application be carried to January 22nd, 2024.
How are we for January 22nd?
We're good for January for this application.
Okay. All right. Is there any time issues on this?
I don't believe there is. Sonia, do you know where are we on time?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I would suggest that we just push it out to the January 22 meeting, and with the condition that we obtain further extension as needed by the applicant, say through February.
Okay.
Okay.
We need a motion on that?
Yes.
A motion to adjourn the Bertram application until January 22nd with the condition that they give us any extension of time necessary through February, the end of February.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we extend that out till January 22nd based on the conditions stipulated.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So move.
Okay. Next application is BA-18-23, Christopher White. Ms. Santiago?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the next application is BA-18-23, Christopher White. This is block 8605, lot 517 Normandy Boulevard East in the RA 15 zone for section C. Applicant proposes construction of an 18 by 10 shed creating a side yard setback of 5 feet where 20 feet is required, and a rear yard setback of 5 feet where 25 feet is required, and creating a combined side yard setback of 15.13 feet where 50 feet is required.
And before we do that, I just want to go back to that Bertram application, make a general announcement to the public that that application is being carried to January 22nd without further notice from the applicant. So January 22, 2024, 7 PM in this room without further notice. Okay, sorry. Now we're ready.
Okay, can you state your names, please?
Christopher White.
Anna Tresnova?
Okay, and you're both going to be testifying?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
what,
Yes, would you both please stand and raise your right hands? You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Again, just for the record, just state your names, please.
Christopher White.
And Anna Tresnova.
And could you spell your last name, please?
Tradnova.
V is in Victor, A? Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
The applicant submitted pictures.
I think we have copies.
Everybody
okay.
has copies.
Okay.
Yeah, we all have copies. There's,
I asked that they send them ahead just so that you have a lay of the land.
so we have like 5 pictures here.
How about that?
Do you just have people in them?
What?
What?
Just look at your pictures.
Okay, Mr. White, tell us, or Anna, tell us about your application.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We have currently an approximately 10 by 8 foot shed in the backyard of our house. We're proposing to remove that shed and replace it with a larger shed that's 10 by 18. The current shed is very close to the existing lot lines, approximately 2 feet to the rear lot line and approximately 1 foot to the side lot line. And the new shed will be a little bit further away, 5 feet from each lot line.
And why do you need a shed that's 10 by 18?
We don't have a garage, so we don't have much storage space. We have a pool in the yard, so we have kind of pool equipment and other kind of various things, lawnmower and such. And the current shed doesn't really fit any of that. So we were just looking to have more storage space.
And how would this shed be shaded or not so obvious to neighbors?
It's going to be, I mean, the look of it is going to be similar to the one we have now. It's going to be, wood frame shed, wood paneled shed. It's going to be painted, the same color as the house, so the color will match. There's a privacy fence kind of all around the backyard. So that kind of hides most of, the yard as is. So it won't be really visible to the neighbors, and it's not visible from the street.
I notice in the first photograph, the top photograph, shows the adjacent property with a shed back there. How large is that shed?
It's actually larger than the one we would be putting up. I think if I recall correctly, it's about 12 by 20 or 12 by 22. I don't know for sure, but a little larger than the one we're proposing to put in.
And how far is that off the lot line?
I'm not sure, but
Approximately.
It's pretty, a few feet
Okay.
would be my guess.
Is that both from the side yard and the rear yard?
Yes.
And what's in the, by the rear property? What's on the other side of your fence?
There's another shed back there to the neighbor that's adjacent to us on the other side. And then there's also privacy hedges on the backside of our privacy fence that's on the neighbor's lot.
Okay.
And then there's a tree as well, a large tree that's kind of in the diagonal lot. Kind of from all sides. It's, sort of there's different, structures or things blocking the view.
When was this house constructed? Do you know approximately?
In the 40s.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Just one.
Sure.
Maybe I'm missing it. I'm not seeing it. What is the height of the shed?
About 10 feet,
10 feet. Okay.
approximately, yes.
Thank you.
Same as what you have now, pretty much.
I think it's slightly taller, but not
Probably the
materially
same height as
different.
the one next to it,
Right.
because the fence is 6 feet.
Yes.
Right.
Your pictures are very helpful, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there's no other location on the property or within the setback lines that you could locate this shed?
No, we have an in-ground pool, and then it's probably visible in one of the photos as well, but there's also a large tree kind of in the middle of the yard as well.
Right. And that's shown in one of the photographs. Is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Board members, any other questions? Not, I'll open up to the public. Any member of the public wishes to ask any questions upon this application? Not close the public portion. Any members of the public want to make any comment upon this application? Not close the public portion. Board members, any comments on this application? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we approve.
Okay.
Second.
And that would be with just our standard conditions, correct?
Yes, correct.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So move.
Okay, we'll have a resolution for you at the next meeting, which is not until the end of January, but we'll have that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Same
you.
to you.
Next application is BA-21-23, Michael Locke. Santiago?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is BA-21-23, Michael Locke. Applicant proposes a 6-foot by 21-foot expansion of existing garage, creating a side yard setback of 3.78 feet where 10 feet is required, and creating a combined side yard setback of 9.63 feet where 20 feet is required, and a rear yard setback of 6 feet where 25 feet is required. Applicant will also seek a variance relief for 31.07% of building coverage where 30% is permitted, and impervious coverage 57.54% where 50% is permitted, and a variance for expansion of a non-conforming structure.
Okay. Mr. Locke?
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And for the record, state your name, please.
My name is Michael Locke.
Thank you. Mr. Locke, you can be seated.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Locke, tell us about this application.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, the application is to increase the size of my garage at the back of the plot. The house was built in 1937, I believe, and I believe the garage is the original. It is a single garage with a lean-to towards the right-hand side. It needs attention, and so we thought that if we were going to do the garage, we would just extend it a little further into the yard, enabling us to put 2 cars in there.
How long have you owned this property?
About 8 years, sir.
About 8 years. And how large is this lean-to that you talk about on the side of the property? On the side of the garage?
The lean-to is it's approximately 3 or 4 feet down to the right of a single car garage.
Thank you.
The left wall of the garage abuts to my neighbor's yard, the rear to the back.
Right.
The gentleman at the back has a double garage.
Right.
And we're going to basically expand ours, if permission allows, to the same area. The property on the left has a double garage that extends out into the middle of the yard, which is what we're proposing to do on ours. To the right-hand side, they have a single garage, but they have a 6-foot privacy fence.
And when you're facing the house, the neighbor to your left, the property behind him has a large garage also. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Is that a two-car garage?
Both at the back of the property, both to the left and immediately behind my property have both double garages.
So you have the smallest garage back there.
That's correct, sir.
And there's no other place to expand it inside the building envelope. Is that correct?
No, sir, there isn't.
All right. Board members, any questions? Any member of the public with any questions of Mr. Locke? Come out to the microphone over. Your name, sir?
Ray Snyder. I live at 93 Burnham Road.
And what's your question to Mr. Locke?
My home is next to the neighbor directly behind him. And yes, in fact, your neighbor has a 2-car garage. My question is exactly how much is he going to enlarge his garage? Reason asking is the Fairchild section of Morris Township is literally a one-car garage neighborhood. If he's going to enlarge his garage double, then literally everybody on our street is going to consider enlarging theirs. The reason I say that is in
So, Mr.
2012,
Schindler, it's really just time for questioning right
questions.
now. And
I
then
understand.
I don't think there's going to be many other questions. We can get to your comments right
Okay.
away.
My question is it going to be a full two-car garage, single level or double level?
With the lean-to, sir, the extension of the garage to make it to fit 2 cars is just an extension of 6 feet. With the single car garage and the lean-to now, by removing the lean-to and adding just 6 feet, allows me to park 2 garages in there, 2 cars.
All right, now I understand. Okay.
Is there a second level in height?
No, sir, it's just a single roof. The roof will go up to 15 feet.
He's showing a peak to 15 feet, but an eve height of, I think it was 8 feet somewhere. So he's going to have a pitch on the roof, but if anything, a loft area above the eve.
But not a second level at all.
No second level.
Okay.
No usable second level other than maybe storage in the rafters.
Not, the height request is permitted, right?
Yes.
No,
Any other
that
questions?
answered my question.
I have a question, Mr. Hanson. With this expansion of the impervious coverage, does it need any kind of storm water management?
Not in this instance, no.
Okay,
No,
Thank
it's minor. It's less than our threshold.
yeah, thank you. Now you can make your comments. if you will.
No, I was just,
But before you do, I have to swear you in, if you don't mind. Would you raise your right hand?
oh, certainly,
You
sorry
solemnly
about
swear
that.
that any comments you will make to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Go right ahead.
In 2012, my neighbor's tree fell in my garage. And I wasn't allowed to double the size of mine. The only reason, and I just accepted that because engineering told me that it was not approved. And I was just thinking that I wanted to see how big his extension is going to be, which now I'm okay with that, just what I tell you. But I was just curious that in this single garage neighborhood, I can only suggest that many people will be approaching the board to enlarge the size of their garages.
And, you know, if they do, it's their right to
I
make that
understand.
request,
Yeah.
and the board will look at each and every one of those individually. You know, just because he may get an approval doesn't mean the next one will. Every piece of property is different, so it would depend on, you know, what the reasons are and
Mhm.
what the rationale is for permitting it or not.
No, I appreciate you suggesting that. In that particular neighborhood, literally every piece of property is identical. Just thought I'd mention it.
Mhm.
But he answered my question, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay?
Any other members of the public wishing to make any comments on this application? Board members, any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this. Mr. Goldberg?
I have no comments. I'll make a motion to approve the application as put forward.
Okay,
Second. Okay, you can have it.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford,
yes.
so move.
So we will have a resolution at the next board meeting, which will be the end of January, but in the meantime, you can get everything together for Dave.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next matter is BA-17-23, Should I go back there and get them?
Yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute break and just
Because they're all in the other room.
get them together?
Round them up.
Come on, we're on a roll. Let's keep going.
Well, can't go too far without them in the room.
So
You want just-
5-minute recess.
Yeah.
I'll tell them we're ready.
Being recorded.
Call back to order the Board of Adjustment meeting for December 11th, 2023. Roll call, Ms. Santiago.
Mr. Goldberg,
Here.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Here.
Mr. Schuster,
Here.
Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Woodford,
Here.
Mr. Oler,
Here.
Mr. Hanson,
Here.
and I, Sonia Santiago, here.
All right, Town Clerk.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Brady from the firm of Brady and Coriel on behalf of the applicant tonight. And if I may, I'll go through a little bit of what this application is about and before we get started. First thing is I wanted to note that I did have the meeting advertised and sent notice to everybody as required. Actually, I did it twice, once before the TCC and once after, because we identified some possible issues at the TCC. I've sent them in. I think, however, the originals have been mailed to Ms. Santiago. I think I emailed them, but the originals are probably in transit somewhere.
I reviewed the notice. It's in proper form. It was published timely and served timely, so the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you. I'm here tonight on behalf of Michael Ewing. He owns 40 Springbrook Road, which is block 6503, lot 54. It's a lot that's in the RA 15 zone. It's a 20,000 square foot lot in a 15,000 square foot zone. It has a 2-story house with an attached garage. The house is built circa 1930. It has a garage that was added at one time, probably in the old days when Model Ts were the established width. It has a kind of an odd layout. It has a rear loading garage. It's got difficult turning geometry to get into that garage because of how the garage is connected to the house. It's got very narrow and low doors. There's no interior access from the garage. Mr. Ewing bought the house about 2 years ago, and he proposes a substantial upgrade that has 5 different components. On your map, or excuse me, on your plans that were prepared by Mueller Engineering, those additions were labeled A through D, and then part of the plan also is not labeled separately as it's not a addition. The unlabeled portion of the plan is a pool with a patio and that's partially covered by a veranda. The covered veranda or covered terrace, it requires a variance because it's 17.2 feet from the sideline where 20 is required. Addition D on the plan is an office addition. That's on the right-hand side of the house. There's currently a office on that side of the house that is long and narrow, very unfunctional in its use. Currently, that's 15.4 feet from the sideline along the entire width of the depth of the house. The proposal is to take down part of that office, and instead of having this long, narrow office, have a more squarish sort of office, more usable and functional office at the back of that right side. That also allows a space along the right side for HVAC units and a generator. Again, the side yard setback is currently 15.4. Where the new office is going in, it will be 8.7, but it'll be in a much smaller section of that side of the house. Also keeps it away from some very substantial trees in the front of the house. Addition C is a new front portico. That is compliant. Addition B is an addition to the existing garage. The proposal is designed to make the garage more easily accessible, both in terms of the turning geometry in the driveway and in terms of new doors that are sufficient width and height, and also allow access from the interior of the garage to the interior of the house, because currently there is none. Currently, the garage is 17.78 feet from the side yard. 20 feet is required. The proposal will put it at 14 feet from the side yard. The last addition is labeled Addition A. That's at the rear of the driveway turnaround. That's a combination of things. There's a portion of the house that is going to contain I think it's octagonal, if I remember the number of sides correctly, dining room, and then that will connect into a combination pool house on the lower floor to service the pool that's at the back that we propose to put at the back of the property. Garage on the ground floor, and then there'll be a bedroom upstairs on the second floor. Currently, the closest portion of the house to the side yard, to that left side yard, is 17.78 feet. This addition with the carriage, we'll call it the carriage house. It's not separated like a traditional carriage house, though. It is connected to the main building, so it's part of the main building. The closest part to the sideline will be 5 feet. We have some other, I'll call miscellaneous variances. One is that the township ordinance requires that you count not just a retaining wall, but the fence on top of the wall as part of the height of the wall. We have a section of wall that, with the fence and the wall together, we end up with an 8 feet calculation, and another section that we wind up, for a small portion at least, with a 9 feet calculation. Township ordinance says that you have to have a minimum of 20 feet side yard on one side and a total of 50 feet side yard for both side yard calculations. We have 33.2 feet existing now, and when we're done, we will have 13.7 feet. That's not, of course, though, the entirety of the depth of the building. You see how it's laid out in kind of an L shape. It's only because of the carriage house being close on one side and that little bump out for the office on the other. Lastly, on building coverage, 20% is allowed. We're currently at a little over 11%, and we're going to be at 21.5%. We have 4 witnesses that we propose to have testify. The first is Michael Ewing, who's sitting to my left. The second is Peter Dorn, the architect of the project. The third and fourth are Kathy Muller, and who's the engineer that designed the plans that you have, and Michael Tobia, who's our professional planner. Our plan for tonight, because Kathy could not attend, is to have Mr. Ewing and Mr. Dorn testify, so that you'll have the layout and what was trying to be achieved, what problems were there, and what is trying to be solved, and then hopefully adjourn to another date to finish up with the other 2 professionals. So if there's no questions at this point, I would ask that Mr. Ewing be sworn in.
Mr. Ewing, would you stand, please? Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Michael Dean.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ewing, I told the board you bought the house a couple of years ago. Tell the board a little bit about when you bought it, what you're using it for, what the condition of the house is, the general overall picture.
I did buy the house almost exactly 2 years ago. I didn't move into it then because there were renters that presented a little bit of difficulty, but
Can you use the microphone, please?
Yeah, keep your voice up, please. Everybody in the back wants to hear you also.
it's hard to believe anybody thinks I need to speak louder, but okay. I did buy the house 2 years ago. It was the product of a 2.5-year trek around many municipalities near here. I had raised my children in Mendham for 20 years. So I knew I wanted to stay nearby. I knew I wanted an older house. My 2 prior houses had both been built in 1926. I wanted to live in the neighborhood that those sorts of houses exist in. So one of the places that attracted me the most was Springbrook. And through the lucky coincidence of my broker and the next door neighbor to this house, who's here with us tonight, and I think is going to speak, and represented the then owners of the house, we were able to find it off market, do a transaction, and finally I got into the house. there was simultaneously a difficulty and an opportunity that faced me when I moved into the house. The difficulty was the fact that there was no entry from the garage into the home. The only way to get from having parked your car in the garage into the house was to walk out, hopefully not in the rain, but sometimes, walk to the back around the corner and into a porch that faces the rear of the house. That and the fact there was a very large patio on the back of the house that I was very attracted to, but I wanted to cover in some way, so it was more usable. And with that in mind, I hired an architect and we started talking about first how to create a direct entry from the garage into the house. And we went through, it seems like dozens of alternative plans for how that might work. All of which involved trying to build something outside and obstruct the driveway that was already up against the house. And none of them worked. And at the end of the day, the only thing that seemed to offer an opportunity to provide direct access was to literally provide direct access, put some sort of an entryway from the garage into the house. Unfortunately, that's adjacent, the garage is adjacent to the dining room. And so the opportunity there was to literally come into the dining room from the garage, which is obviously not something that would be acceptable. And that prompted a pretty significant rethink of the way we were going to manage the sorts of things that I wanted to do, and involved basically eliminating the existing dining room as a dining room, using it for other purposes, and finding some other place outside the house to create a new dining room. So we'd have a dining room. And those were the moving forces behind the entire plan, that and the fact that I own a couple of not very expensive, but nonetheless nice older cars that I like to keep around, and I wanted to create some additional garage space for them. And so the plan developed as it did. There was also we've called it an office. I'm not sure it ever really was. It's more like an enclosed porch on one side of the house that is functionally not usable because it is so narrow. You can't really put furniture in that. You couldn't put a television or something in there that was far enough away that it wasn't right on top of you.
How wide is that existing office?
I can almost stretch up my hands, my fingers, and touch both sides. So it's probably 6 feet and change. And my original thought was, okay, let's just push it out 4 feet. I didn't think that that was egregious, and create a bigger space. But in considering that, and others will talk about that in more detail, we thought that pouring the footers for that additional space would run the risk of impinging on the root systems of 2 very large trees on that side of the house. And so we decided instead to demolish that room and create another room of roughly the same square footage, although a different shape, further back toward the rear of the house instead of out on the front. There are other things that need to be done to the house because of its age. The plumbing is bordering on decrepit. I have a bathroom that I can't use because I have to keep the water shut off because it's running in the walls. The heating in the house uses literally 7 different systems to heat the house. And those are all my problems, not zoning issues or land use issues. So we'll deal with that. But we wanted to create a dining room to substitute for the dining room that we had to eliminate in order to provide access to the garage. We wanted to create a better bedroom environment. One of the bedrooms in the house as it exists is very small. The others are usable, but there's only one bathroom on that floor other than the master bath. And if we were going to put a garage outside, we're going to have to excavate for footers. We might as well create some usable space under the garage as we did that. At the last minute, we decided to add a pool, but was never a moving factor in what we were trying to do. So that's sort of a brief summary of the motivation for buying an old house in an old neighborhood, wanting to change it around so that it functions better than it does, I mean, I'm not talking out of school to say that I spent $1.25 million to buy that house. And when you consider the deferred maintenance that's inside of it right now, there's another $250,000 would have to go into it if we change nothing, just to make it the house that I bought. So there's lots in front of us that needs to be done, and others that we would like to do. Happy to take any questions if that's appropriate.
Are you basically done?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Mr. Dorn deal with the layout and a little more detail what the issues were at the old house and what he was trying to solve. But I wanted you to meet Mr. Ewing and understand what his motivation was here.
Okay. So when you're talking, just let's start at the office and start in that direction. The existing office is how far from the sideline? Property line?
The existing office is
15.4.
it's 15.4 now.
All right,
It will be, new one will be 8.7.
8.7. So if you were thinking about expanding the old office about 4 feet, you'd have been down to about 11 feet off the property line, give or take.
Yeah, if we had gotten to actually planning it, yeah, that sounds right.
Before you purchased this house, did you have any, I mean, I assume you're pretty experienced at looking at houses and assessing what's what and how things work. Did you realize how small this office was, that now that you have to expand it so much?
I did. I didn't realize how unusable that was, but I appreciated how large it wasn't.
Okay. When you say you didn't appreciate how unusable it was, what did you see in that office?
Well, it at one end of that space, there's built-in cabinetry.
Right.
With desk space at the end and on both sides. And the space between the two is 3 feet, maybe 4.
Okay.
You almost can't turn around in it. And it wasn't until I tried to put a computer and a chair, and I realized how just unusable it was.
And so you want to take down that office, you said, and put in a larger square office further towards the rear of the building.
Well, it's all driven by my unwillingness to risk those 2 very large trees. I mean, they're really massive. I'm sure the root systems are very large. I'm not interested in digging footings out there that might hurt the roots.
Okay. And will you talk about why you couldn't configure the garage, an entrance into the garage without this major expansion, and just make like some sort of breezeway or connecting some sort of connection from the garage into the house? Like,
I'll be content to let my architect explain that in greater detail, but there just literally is no space. The nearer of the 2 garage doors is only 2 feet away from the wall of the house.
Right.
So there's no way to put a doorway there that could create a breezeway.
what about a doorway going out the back and coming around?
Well, the back is actually the front because the garage
yeah, that's right.
faces the back.
That's right. I'm sorry.
And I want to correct something. David said that the house was, or I'm sorry, that the garage was added after the house was built.
Right.
I've told people I thought that was true because I couldn't imagine why somebody would build a house with a garage with no entryway. But some information has come to me through my conversations with some of my neighbors that maybe the house was actually built that way. In either case, there's still no access from the garage into the house, but it's not certain that that was added later.
Okay.
It seems like it was designed more for a 1930 car though, than for a modern car.
Yeah, I mean, it's the garage doors are 6.5 feet tall, and right, most of the cars you could see on a lot today, you couldn't drive in there.
You can just don't drive in with the Christmas tree. Okay, this addition in the back, where you got the a new bedroom and the pool equipment, What is the reasoning for that?
Well,
What's your reasoning?
the reason for that is twofold. One is to create a dining room because I've effectively eliminated the dining room inside the house.
Well,
The other-
dining room's underneath that, towards the center of the house, correct? Then you've got the extension over towards the left property line.
Well, the dining room is directly out what is the existing back door
Right,
on 2 levels
right,
of the house. And so
right.
to redirect it either way is a significantly larger task, I think.
Right.
So
But
it's
I'm
there
talking about
because of
that
that.
whole addition to the left of the dining room,
That's the garage, the new garage.
the new garage.
Yeah. And the bedroom above it and the space below it it's not incidental exactly, but the space requirement is created by the garage.
The space below it is in fact mostly from the street. It's invisible.
Right.
Correct,
And there's a significant grade there, so it's low grade.
right. Yeah, board members, questions?
Okay, it was clear to me that the back area is going to be garage also. It said carriage house, I didn't.
Yeah,
So now you're going to have 4 cars, 4 stalls.
Yes, sir.
any more questions there?
I'm curious, it's just the shape, the mushroom, kind of like a narrow hallway back to an octagon.
Well,
What's,
there's a story about the octagon if you want to hear it. I don't know if we want to take the time to do that, but
Sure.
okay. I moved here from Hinsdale, Illinois, which is a kind of semi-prosperous town west of Chicago. One of the prime families of that community was the Butler family. If you flew around from airport to airport in the U.S., you used to see Butler Aviation on a lot of it. That's their family. Their predecessors were actually paper printers. They printed the paper that the U.S. Declaration of Independence was written on. But I was invited to dinner once at their house, and they had a colonial, very nice big house, and they had an octagonal dining room attached to it. And it was the most remarkable sensation to sit in there in the gloaming, if you will, and have dinner with friends in that room. And so when the time came to build a room, it didn't seem to me it mattered very much what shape it was in terms of how much space it took. So that was my choice.
okay.
Any other questions from board members? Members of the public with any questions?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Robert McBriar. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Skink, Price, Smith & King, located in Florham Park. I represent Margaret Sellers. Margaret resides at 42 Springbrook Road, adjacent to subject property on the easterly side.
Could you spell her last name, please?
Sellers.
And are you representing anyone else?
Not at this time.
And can you spell your last name for me, please?
Last name's McBriar, MC, capital BRIAR.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Young, you indicated that you purchased the property in or about, was it November 2021?
My recollection is December, but yes.
December, okay. And when did you start residing there?
In May of 22.
And who else resides there with you?
No,
When you decided to purchase the subject property, was your broker aware that you wanted to install a pool in the rear yard?
the broker couldn't have been because I wasn't.
Okay. And similarly, when you decided to purchase a property, was your broker was he or she aware of your desire to install any additional improvements to the rear yard area?
As before, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
she could-
Before you filed the application, did you reach out to your neighbors to get any input on your proposed project and how it might affect them?
I only reached out to one. Well, I talked briefly to my neighbors on both sides, but the only extended conversations I had were with your client.
And that was before the application, correct?
The first very brief discussion in her driveway was before the application, yeah.
And what did you advise my client at that time by way of your proposed project?
A very generalized description of the project that you see. It was quick, it was simple. I didn't have much detail, but it was not inconsistent with what we proposed.
Did you have occasion to review the physical plan set with my client at that time?
Once I became aware that she was upset about it, I reached out multiple times asking to sit with her and talk through what we were planning and what her objections were and whether we could find some common ground, and I was not able to do that.
And what is your understanding of the concerns or objections that sellers had regarding the current proposal?
With respect, I would prefer to let them speak for themselves unless you think I should answer that question.
Well, I represent the client, so I'm asking on her behalf. What
You're asking me what I think about her thoughts.
So that's not. No, he's asking you, do you know what she doesn't like about your plan?
I know what she's told me she doesn't like, yes. And can I say this?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
What she said that she doesn't like is the proximity of the development to her property and the height of a wall that's proposed to be built.
do you think?
And if there's more, please say. Those are the two main items that I've taken from the conversations.
And as a result of those concerns, Mr. Ewing, did you revisit the plans with your professionals to accommodate or mitigate any of those concerns?
I don't, there's been no interactive discussion about this because it's been impossible to have. And I should also amend my prior remarks. We did sit down and have a meeting in her office attended by Dick Wade late in that process.
Mr. Wade, it's your understanding that he owns property nearby as well?
He owns the house that's 46.
Okay. Did you ever tell anyone in the area that you had the support of neighbors for your project?
Mr. Chairman, I have to object to this. There's no relevance to the standards that we have to prove in terms of our application here, whether you told neighbors one thing or another thing.
Why don't we just stick to what he did testify about?
Counsel, he did testify that he had met with these individuals. And what I'm trying to understand is to what extent he reviewed the proposal with the client so that they can understand the extent of what is being proposed.
At our last meeting, our only real meeting with Maggie and Dick and myself, I brought plans, we put them on the table. They were, I allowed them to look for as long at it and as whatever detail they wanted.
But as a consequence or as a result of that meeting, you didn't change anything about your plan, is that correct?
No.
When did you first become aware that 7 variances are required in order to seek approvals for your plan?
I'm going to object that this is irrelevant. to this.
That's
I understand
irrelevant.
It's a broad question that's allowed. It's not like a court of law, but this has no relevance to whether we've met our standards and the proof we're putting in.
Or to his testimony.
Right.
Mr. Ewing, your plans call for the removal of 5 trees with an average width more than 17 inches from the seller's property line. Is that correct?
I have not heard that spoken. I would be shocked if that was true. I don't believe it.
In fact, the trees that are being removed are shown on Ms. Muller's plans, and when she comes in to testify, we can go over what trees are being
Let me-
removed and where they're located.
May I expand upon that?
Yes, you may talk to your attorney about that, but
I don't believe that to be the case, but if it is, or if there are other topiary, arboreal issues here, I'll do what's necessary to make it good. And I've made an offer to Maggie in that regard once. I don't know that it hasn't been responded to, but if trees have to come down to do that, I'll replace the trees. I mean,
And-
frankly, I don't,
And where would those trees be located?
I think that kind of detail is not something I have at my fingertips.
Okay, so it's your testimony that you're,
Let me put it differently. I'm not in this to annoy or antagonize my neighbor. So when those kinds of issues need to be discussed and resolved, I'm as cooperative as anybody can be in getting them discussed and resolved.
I submit to you that the plans call for the removal of 5 trees along the property line. And what was interesting about your testimony about the trees on the westerly side was that you didn't want to unnecessarily risk any damage to root structures along that property line.
Those are huge historic trees.
Other than the 5 trees that are required to be removed for the improvements on the easterly side, have you undertaken any consideration or study for the damage to any root structures on my client's side of your proposed project?
I've not, but that's a good point to raise, and I'd be happy to.
If indeed it's true that 5 trees are being removed from the property line, would you agree that that puts at risk the privacy buffer that currently exists at the property line?
I would not, because I don't know which trees we're speaking of, but I will tell you that I sat with Ms. Sellers in a conference room and told her that I would plant whatever was necessary adjacent to structures we intend to put up to obscure them from her view. And I do mean whatever is necessary.
I'll take that up with your engineer and
Well,
review.
you can't, because nobody's discussed this. This is my offer to make good on the concerns that she has about the way the project looks from her house.
We'll certainly review that from the plan set with your engineer. Your proposal significantly increases the building coverage on the property, correct?
I'd prefer that you ask those questions with the expert.
Did you retain anyone to evaluate the effects that the increased coverage and surface would have on stormwater runoff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there are significant elaborate plans on the existing proposal to address that very issue.
Ms. Muller will address stormwater issues when she testifies.
Thank
And
you,
I can
Mr.
tell
Brown.
you that I have been, I don't want to call it victimized, but I have been the downslope neighbor for those problems. So I know exactly what they're like, how terrible they are. I won't inflict that on my neighbor.
Regarding the pool house, how close are the window wells of the pool house to Ms. Sellers' property line?
We have decided, and apparently it's not been reflected in the plans, I'm not sure why, but we're going to eliminate those window wells, so those will be solid.
How close is the pool house toilet facilities to the property line?
I need to ask permission to make a correction, because
Sure.
there's not really a pool house, because that, most of us know friends who have pool houses and they're separate structures built out by a pool for entertainment purposes. There's no pool house here.
Well,
Pool
it
house
says, it says on the plan,
I under-
carriage dash pool house. So
I-
that's
I-
probably what he's referring to.
I
So
apologize for
if we-
that. It's simply,
all we want is that we each identify what we're talking about and not carry on for 10 minutes and be confused about what
exactly.
portion
So
we're talking about.
what's labeled the pool house is just the downstairs beneath the garage.
Okay, and downstairs in whatever you want to call it, there is a bathroom facility, correct?
Yes.
And how many fixtures are part of that proposed bathroom?
It's a small bathroom with a shower.
And how close is that to the property line?
Well, it's inside the building.
I'll review that again with the engineer. Do you know how close the proposed AC unit is to the property line?
Well, I don't think the AC units have been located. They're certainly not going to be located nearer to the property line than the building.
I'll review that again with your engineer. The proposed garage and bedroom 4 above, again, I'll call it the pool house area or the downstairs pool area, will have windows facing the property line. Is that accurate?
The bedroom will, yeah.
And how many windows are part of that bedroom, which I'll refer to bedroom 4? I think you refer to it on the plans.
I mean, I could give my recollection.
Yeah, if you don't recall, I'll address it either with yourself, since these ideas were developed by yourself in consultation with your professionals. I'll certainly note that to revisit with them. Since you said it's attached to the main house, so there's no intention to rent that out. Is that correct?
Sorry, but can you use the microphone,
I'm sorry.
please? We can't hear you.
I couldn't get my daughter to pay rent anyway, so no, there's no proposal to rent out.
And I assume that the downstairs pool area, it has a room and the bathroom facility. Is it safe to say that you may plan or host events or socials or parties in that area?
Yes, it's safe to assume we will have social events at our house.
And what's the maximum capacity for that room that's downstairs as part of the pool house?
That's a question for the architect.
Okay.
Mr. Yoon, do you intend to add any exterior lighting to the pool house or garage?
I haven't thought about it. There'll certainly be a lighting aimed at the pool. There wouldn't be the need to put any lighting aimed at the houses on either side, as there isn't necessary.
When you say aimed at, does that mean it's exterior spotlight?
Well, I'm trying to respond to his question. I thought that's what he was asking.
Response, that's all. You're saying it would be aimed at the pool?
If there was exterior lighting, it would be for the purpose of illuminating the pool. Yes.
And how about the garage, the front of the garage or the entrance of the garage?
There's lighting back there now. There would probably be some additional lighting because there's additional space, but I don't have a definitive answer for you to that.
Will there be any, are there any plans for exterior fire pits, whether it's propane or natural wood, in the rear yard area?
The proposal as drawn includes an outdoor fireplace on the opposite side from your client's property.
As a result of these improvements, will you require an increase in the size of water service to the property?
That's a professional response that I can't provide to you. Sorry.
You spent some testimony describing the office. Is there any closet being proposed in the office room?
No.
Is there any intent to eventually convert that into a bedroom?
Absolutely not. It won't be big enough for that.
The reason I ask is because your prior testimony indicated that the current office isn't large enough to accommodate furniture and a TV. That's why I asked that question.
Well, if somebody used it as a den, then they'd want to have a television there, maybe a couch, but there's not room for that.
There are a number of retaining walls being proposed on the easterly side of the yard, ranging from, I think, 4 feet to 6 feet. Are there any safety features that will accommodate those walls?
Well, if I may, the retaining walls aren't being proposed, they exist. Because the driveway doesn't follow the natural slope of the property. It was built up when the house was built to accommodate the existing garages. So there are walls that fall down from that side of the driveway toward the natural slope of the property. Obviously, we can't do anything about that except make them look nicer, which is what we've proposed to do.
And is that accurate throughout the entire property line to the rear lot line?
Well, it only really matters back to the front of the garage because beyond that is built structure.
When the driveway needs to be plowed in the winter, where will the snow be stored?
Well, That's a great question, and it's the same question I've asked myself since I moved in, because it's the same problem.
Okay. I have no further questions at this particular time. Thank you, Mr. Ewing.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the public with questions of Mr. Ewing at this point? So come up to the microphone.
I'm Leanne Nugent.
Anthony Nugent.
And-
We're at 38 Springbrook Road, next door to Mr. Ewing on the right.
So what is your questions of Mr. Ewing?
Sure, so
Mr. Chairman, I didn't quite get the last names.
Nugent.
N-U-G-E-N-T.
You sent us a letter. So, Mr. Ewing, you gave testimony that the office is 6 feet and change?
That was my belief. There's a plan that has it.
Mr. Dorning has existing drawings? What is the,
Well, he'll be testifying later if you want to wait for that. I don't know what the process is.
You get to pick who your witnesses are and in what order you want them to testify.
I don't know whether you want me to approximate that now or you would rather
no, you already
wait.
did.
Pardon?
You already did.
Right, so
You've claimed that you've reviewed the plans with the neighbors. You have never come to us and reviewed anything with us besides saying, I have plans
I had a very brief conversation.
with me
I think
when
I
you
actually
first
talked to
moved
Tony
in.
too,
And
but
then
maybe
you've
so,
had,
yeah. And
Well,
I
well,
said,
hold on.
Yeah, this
Let's
was
make this, it's not a conversation, it's a question and answer. So
Okay.
Everything's going to be in the form of a question.
okay,
And it's better if we just did one of you at a time.
I'm
and
sorry.
then- Rather than.
Okay.
even Questions.
My question is, one of the questions is, you've described the poor condition of your home when you purchased it. Have you kept up the home in the last 2 years is my question, because we listen.
We have a question.
Yeah,
Okay.
just let him
Okay.
answer it.
yes. I've let some cosmetic things go because we have big plans here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of money on things that I'm going to have to replace later. But yes, I just sent the plumber away after $2,000 worth of work.
We listened to AC units that are broken all summer. Do you, what is the width of your current garage? I can't seem to find that on the plans.
I apologize, but if it's not on the plans, then I can't answer your question. That would be the best evidence I would have. I mean, it's one car width.
Okay. Okay.
Can I offer a gratuitous comment?
Oh, we're questioning right now, then later on you can do your gratuitous comment.
Have you considered, with the addition of this office, have you considered the tree? You talk about the other 2 trees that are existing on your property. We have a shared tree on the property line, does hit your property line a little bit, that is very large. And you're going out with, have you considered the disruption to that root system of that tree?
I don't know which tree you're speaking of. If there's one that's put in danger, we will certainly consider it and take care of what needs to be taken care of. I'm not
But
interested in killing
it
a tree.
is a tree that is, it's not something that can be replaced. Have,
None of them are. That's my point.
exactly.
Right.
So that tree, have you considered the trees which you do have on the site plan that are on our property? Have you considered the retaining wall that's 7 feet from our property, and we have very established 2 very large cherry trees, other evergreen trees? Have you considered the disruption to their root systems and what it will do?
we identified 2 trees that we thought we needed to take extraordinarily significant steps to protect. We're not aware of others that require that same attention. If they do, we will provide.
Your 2 trees on your property, and then you have 3 on our site plan on our property, and those root systems will also be impacted. And we do not see any plan about, we're talking water retention. So the grade of our property to the Ewing's property comes down like this.
Towards your
And then-
property or towards his?
Towards his. And then he's building up with a retaining wall. This is going to create, an
Now we're getting.
Yeah.
There's a little bit
Okay.
of background for this question I'm anticipating.
so I was trying to describe it. If you have, I don't see anything about water retention down this alley between our 2 properties, that now there is only 7 feet between our property line and this new retaining wall. There is no retaining wall existing along the property line, your side to our side.
Well, as with the driveway, the property was built up when the patio was installed because the grade would have taken it lower. I can't tell you how much or why or any of those things. I'm surprised that you cite 7 feet, but I mean, that's something that's on the plans or it's not. So that's not for us to
It's on the
disagree
plan.
about. I thought there was more space.
It's been
No, there
cited
isn't.
many
7 feet.
times. It's 7
It's even
feet.
in the application letter.
We've heard the concern.
Right.
Okay.
When
Any other
Ms. Muller
questions?
comes to testify, she's the engineer. We'll have her address those issues.
Another issue that is lighting plans you're building. Our question is lighting plans along there's nothing here about with your retaining wall along our property line and stairs going down from your covered patio to your pool is how you will access your pool 7 feet from our property line. I do not, what are the lighting plans there?
I would say the response to that is that we are providing conceptual plans for what we're going to do in order to have this hearing before this board. We haven't reached the point where we're buying lighting fixtures and determining where they're going to be. I will tell you this, I am not a bad neighbor. I will not create a nuisance for my neighbors with the lighting that we install on the property. It will be the same as the lighting in everybody else's house.
The town does have a lighting ordinance that he would have to comply with.
Within setbacks, that's just now we're not within the zoning. And that is a question that we have, among others.
So I guess this is a question to Mr. Brady. Can I ask you the question or?
No, I'm not, I don't testify.
He's not a witness.
But you made a statement. I'm asking,
Why don't you ask the statement of Mr. Ewing, and let's see if he.
okay,
can-
Mr. Ewing. Have all the observations of the November 2nd, 2023 TCC meeting summary been met?
I see now why you wanted to ask him. I believe they have been, but that will become apparent with further testimony.
So in that summary, they state stormwater mitigation was noted on the plans. The area of the pool house does not appear to be noted in the listing of new impervious coverage for the sizing of the seepage pits.
Yes, Ms. Muller, when she testifies, will address that she has met with Mr. Hanson and gone over them. I believe that all those points in the TCC memo have been met, but Ms. Muller will have to address them.
It wouldn't be on the agenda tonight if the conditions of the TCC weren't addressed.
Sure.
I do have, Mr. Ewing, you stated that it's too hard to turn in the driving radius of the way the driveway exists now. My question is, how does expanding your garage further into the driveway help your turning radius?
If I may, I beg your pardon, but I did not say that, and I have not said that, and I do not know that to be the case. Mr. Brady said that, but I didn't. And the answer to your question is, I'm not sure.
Mr. Brady said it represents you.
Yeah. just leave it at. So I guess just a question for you, Mr. Ewing. So everything that you propose with your additions, the pool, the retaining walls, patio, covered terrace, asking for variances, pretty extreme, getting close to both Maggie Sellers' property line, our seller's line. From our house, all we're going to be doing is looking out into your backyard with these large structures. So do you think our privacy has been compromised?
No.
You don't? Okay.
I'll invite you to my home.
Okay.
Everything
you can't
that
argue
you
with him. Just
cited
let him answer.
is visible from the existing patio. So there's no. In fact, it's basically the existing patio being redeveloped. It's the same.
Not when we lose all our old trees.
Just,
I'm sorry.
just questions at this point. You'll have.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other members of the public wishing to ask questions? Please come up to the microphone.
I have 3 questions, if I may.
There's a woman coming up before you, Mr. Wade.
I'm sorry?
There's a woman behind you coming up first, and then you can ask questions. Okay, you're invited up first.
Whoever gets there first.
Mr. Ewing, please try to use the microphone, so, because the meeting is being recorded, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Thank
Sorry.
We have your name, please?
Gloria Robinson, 9 Spring Hill Lane. I am not a neighbor,
What number did you say?
9. And I am not directly impacted as some of our other neighbors are who are speaking up. I'm just speaking for what I feel is right.
Okay, questions at this point?
Okay. The question is, if the current proposal is accepted, this sets a very dangerous precedent.
That's there's got to be
I
questions.
have a second question, the second, it leads up to it.
Okay.
The question is, if the setback is now reduced from 20 feet to 5 feet on the sides, that means that any of your neighbors or any neighbors can then have a 5-foot setback, since that's the
Mr. Robinson,
precedent.
It doesn't mean that, and it's still not a question.
Would you like that? Would you like that, sir? If Maggie Sellers or if your neighbors on either side of you're building a beautiful 2 or 3 story pool house / garage / bedroom over there, 2 or 3 stories high, 5 feet from one property line. Would you like if Maggie goes ahead and builds a similar structure? Your bedrooms would be 10 feet apart. That does not sound.
Mr. Ewing an opportunity to answer.
There are structures all over the neighborhood that are closer to the lot line, separate garages, sheds. I appreciate that this is an unusual occurrence, but the house is oriented so far over to one side that I don't know how else we can do this. So if somebody does something as nicely as I'm going to do this, I'll be fine.
I think everyone is just hoping, people
Don't
are not.
argue, just ask questions.
Okay. Wouldn't it be better if there were some modification to the existing plan to ameliorate the damage being done to the neighbors? Instead of 5 feet, have it 15 feet. You can go deeper into the property. Now I'm not an architect. I'm not an architect, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. So
Okay, but
there
by
seem to be
staying at the Holiday Inn,
alternative
did it teach you how to ask
proposals.
questions? Because that's what we're doing right now.
What
Only
alternative
questions.
proposals exist?
At the moment, none.
It might be in your best interest to
No
develop some.
comments,
Isn't it in
questions?
your best interest to develop some alternative proposals?
Not tonight.
Okay.
On another
Questions.
occasion.
No
So,
arguing, just questions.
everybody,
No arguing, just questions.
okay. Well, hey, it's my nature. Have you considered other proposals? Sounds like the answer is not.
We developed this proposal based on the requirements that the site, the house, and my desires require. That's how we got to where we got. There's no, so beyond that, no, we haven't.
Okay. It is likely there are other options, and
No comments, questions only.
are that you have already answered, are there other options?
He said no.
Are you going to investigate other options?
I'm going to wait until this board has given me its thoughts before I even consider that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wade.
Richard Wade, 46 Springbrook Road. Mr. Ewing, when you purchased this house, it was a 4-bedroom, 2-car garage,
It was.
and obviously you inspected the property,
I had it inspected, yes.
and you had a professional inspect the property for yourself,
Yes,
and you knew the size of the house when you bought it,
I did.
and you knew the size of the yard when you bought it,
I did.
and you saw the garage when you bought it,
I did.
and you saw the turnaround in the backyard when you bought it.
I did.
And are you familiar with the fact that in Springbrook, a lot of the older homes like yours have garages in the back?
Only following our discussion.
I'm sorry?
Only since you and I had a discussion
Okay.
about it.
And at the moment, you live by yourself,
I do.
and you're aware that prior to your occupancy, there are a number of families that lived there over the years.
I am not aware of that, but I would have expected that.
And I believe you would agree that the house is some 90 years old
Well, depending upon the record you rely
in
on.
that area.
93, yes.
And you bought the house because you liked the neighborhood and you liked the house.
I did.
And now you're trying to change the size of the house and the structure of the house, correct?
I'm proposing to, yes.
And your proposal deviates from what's there at the moment.
I'm sorry.
Your proposal deviates what the structure looks like at the moment.
Of course.
You're making a major addition to the property.
Well, that's in the eye of the beholder, but it is significant.
I'm
yes.
sorry?
Whether it's major or not is in the eye of the beholder, but yes, it's a substantial addition.
Well, the quote pool house is a 3-story structure, is it not?
Yes,
And the lower level has a kitchen,
it has a kitchenette planned, yes.
kitchen, bathroom,
Small bathroom, yes.
family room type,
Well, the space beneath
Party
the dining
room,
room would be
something-
usable as a family
a
room,
room
yes.
for your guests to enjoy themselves after using the pool or during the use of the pool, correct?
Well, if, it'd be there for my guests to use,
There for your
yes.
guests. And this structure is attached to the house,
It would be, yes.
and the 2-car garage is the quote gray level structure, and above that is a bedroom,
I'm sorry, you're talking about the new garage?
the new garage.
Yes,
And when you're done with your project, if it were to be built, you would have a 4-car garage, 2 and 2.
correct.
And you know that there are garages in the Springbrook neighborhood that are detached from the house.
The ones I can see from the street, yes.
If you go down Springbrook, the house on the right, looking at the golf course, has a 2-car detached garage, does it not?
I can't respond to that directly. I know there are
Okay.
some that do.
Okay. If in fact there was a 2-car detached garage, you would have to go outside from the house to get to the garage and vice versa.
Yes, if it was
So that would
detached,
not-
you would have to do that.
So that would not be uncommon for someone to have to go outside to get to their garage.
From their detached garage, that's
Yes.
correct.
And when you bought the house, you realized the configuration of the garage and the access, correct?
Yes, I did.
So your project really is after consideration of living in the house for a number of years?
It was always an issue. I always hoped I would be able to solve it. I didn't imagine that it would take this.
And the house had a master bedroom suite and a fairly new master bathroom
Fairly new, yes.
within the last 10 years?
I can't respond to that.
Okay. And the backyard now has is a patio,
There is a patio adjacent to the back of the house.
and that is large enough to fit 5 or 10 people?
Oh, a lot more than that.
Okay. And your yard is graded and seeded. In fact, it's a very nice backyard, is it not?
It is.
A very comfortable backyard right now.
It's grass. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
comfortable.
it was obviously an attraction for you when you bought the house.
The whole house was an attraction. for
The
me.
house and the property as it existed.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public with questions of this witness? Board members, based upon what these questions that arose from the public, do you have any more questions? I'm curious about, you said you haven't developed any lighting plan, especially adjacent the property that is owned by the Nugents, and you have the walkway right there. What kind of lighting is there? Because it's very easy for that lighting to spill over onto their property, being only 7 feet away.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. I mean, the sort of unspoken assumption in a lot of these questions is that I'm going to take advantage of my neighbors, and I'm not. But
It's not a question of
if-
taking advantage, it's a question of they're entitled to the enjoyment and use of your property, and you're entitled to enjoyment and use of your property. But
Mr. Chairman, lighting plans usually develop in a combination of the architect and the engineer. We have the engineer coming back.
when we have the engineer come in,
I'm going to mention to the engineer, we should demonstrate.
we should have a lighting plan. when
And
we come
Mr.
back.
Brady, I want to point out to you, ordinance 9537M as in Mary. That is,
Lighting standard.
that is the lighting standards.
I can tell you, however, Mr. Woodford, that we're not going to do anything to light our property that makes it difficult to enjoy anyone else's property.
And could you take a look at the trees that the Nugents referred to?
I absolutely will. I mean, I think we will.
The trees are shown on the plan, so I've made a note to have Ms. Mueller take a look at whether she believes they're going to be impacted. I don't believe looking at the plan, I don't believe the ones on the right side are as close maybe as the neighbors think, but we'll address it.
Okay. And did the home inspection report that you obtained when you purchased the house, did that have any comments about the state of the plumbing?
It did not, and that's something that's developed since I moved into the house.
That's all developed since you got there?
Right. I mean, what's developed is that there's a ticking in the hot water line into my master bathroom, and I get hot water through the cold water spigot periodically. It's very not scheduled, or and there are 2 bathrooms on that floor, my bathroom and then a hallway bathroom.
Right.
And the water from the toilet in the hallway bathroom is running down into the wall behind the refrigerator in the kitchen. So I've had to shut it off.
Okay.
And you know, to the extent that it matters, I knew it was a 93-year-old house.
Right.
I know 93-year-old houses have problems, and it costs money to fix them. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's really not related to this.
Okay.
Quick question, is there any intent or desire to have an outdoor audio system or music or anything, speakers built on the side of the carriage house, anything along those lines?
The home as it exists was festooned with speakers, mostly in the house, but not completely in the house. To the extent that I would do something like that outside, it would be respectful of my neighbors, of course. I mean, the Nugents have parties outside. They've made a little noise. It's fine. So I'm not sure, maybe I didn't answer your question.
As part of the plans, will there be sort of
Yes.
outdoor speakers, or is the intent to, I mean, it would make, I mean, it wouldn't, there's nothing, there's anything wrong with it. I'm just curious as to whether you thought, if you haven't thought that far down the road
Yeah.
yet, or,
The best answer is we haven't thought that far down the road.
thank you.
The other board members with questions? Mr. Hanson, do you have any questions?
Out of this one.
Okay. We go on to witness number 2.
Thank you. Our next witness, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, is Peter Dorn.
Mr. Dorn, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I did.
And your full name for the record, please?
Peter Dorn.
Thank you, Mr. Dorn.
See, give us our qualifications, just for the record.
Peter, if you go through your qualifications, your educational background.
You can sit down.
All right, well, I started out at United States Military Academy at West Point, studied engineering. I have an economics degree from Rutgers, and then my master's from NJIT in architecture. And I've been.
You're a licensed architect?
Yes,
Is your license still current?
yes.
Is it only in New Jersey or are you licensed elsewhere?
No, California, Florida, Connecticut, Washington DC, Montana. I got 3 or 4 more.
But the one in New Jersey is current.
Oh, yes,
And how long have you been practicing in New Jersey?
since 92.
For your own firm?
Yes. Well, I was partners with Walter Pfeiffer. For those of you that have been around Morristown for a number of years, did projects like the Grand Cafe and Madison Hotel, Christ the King Church in New Vernon.
It's a little difficult.
Sorry, I'll talk up.
My hearing aids are not coming for 10 days, so. we can speak loud.
I'd be happy to try. Okay.
Okay, we'll accept you as a.
What's that?
You're accepted as an expert. You've testified here many times.
Yes. And I've done a number of homes in the Springbrook area. And I think all the questions that you folks have brought up are relevant, and maybe we can.
Speaking to the microphone, Peter.
Okay, all right, so
Why don't we start with how you came to this project, what you did in terms of looking at the current house and then what you were trying to achieve going forward, and I'll let you decide how you want to do it. I know
Okay.
you've got plans in front of you, and we have up on the monitor, I think, the same plans, so if you want to go through them, or if you want to do a little more of an overview first, I'll leave it to you.
What I'd like to do is go through the plans as they go up.
Sure.
And then I think I can maybe address some of the questions that came up, that after we're done, people can have a better understanding and they can.
And Dave, the
Big
plans that are
question.
on the board are exactly what we have in our
I was
package.
just about to ask that. I believe, Mr. Dorn, that everything we're looking up at until we get to the very end, we may have 2 extra things. But this set that we have up there now is the exact set we submitted before. correct?
The only thing different is there was a question that came up before, so I'll clarify it as to whether the dimensions of the window wells on the easterly side of the carriage house, they've been eliminated, so they're on these plans, but they will not exist. And also
But the plans up there are the plans we submitted to the
Oh,
board.
yeah.
Right, so we don't have to mark them as a separate exhibit.
Right, yes.
Excuse me. Those plans up there are December 11th.
These ones reflect the window well change. The
Oh, they do, okay.
The plans that we have in our packets is July 27th.
So then
They should be marked as,
So let's mark that A1. And would you email us a copy of that to Sonia, please?
Sure.
It's December 11th?
What the box says.
Last revised December 11. So today.
I'll make sure they get emailed and make a note of that.
Are these floor plans?
There's inside, tire
Architectural.
set, there's some sections and floor plans and elevations. Okay, Paul?
Sure.
Okay, all right, so I think I'm going to try to explain certain things as we go along, and the best way I think we can do it is if we start on the ground floor. We have the existing drawings of the basement plan and then the proposed basement plan. So you can see that one of the issues was that when Mike got together with me, he said there's a stairwell in the back that you can see, and it's like a pool in there. It doesn't. I don't even think there's a drain in there, and it fills up. And one of his program solutions to that was that we create a new exterior entry, and also it had to act as a passageway on the lower level. So that we'll get into what I did with that. The other thing is the garage slab, you'll see, is probably about 30 inches down from the first floor of the house. So if we go over to the proposed plan, you can see that the garage was expanded, the existing garage was expanded 3'8" to make it a much more normal sized garage.
What's abnormal about the garage now?
It's too narrow. There was, the doors were very close together with a single column that went through it. The doors were small. And in part of answering some of the questions that the folks had before, is what I did is the reason we put the carriage house building 40 feet back was that's a good area where you can turn around and you can park. So listen, I've lived in town for a long time, so I know what parking along Springbrook, that area is like. You really can't park on the road because it's fairly narrow and there's a topography there. If you pull off the side of the road, either you're going to ruin your wheels on your car or you're going to slip off to the side. So I decided that it would be a good thing to do to create a parking area in there, as well as the other two-car garage, so that they would face each other. A question came up about the snow removal before, and what I did, I have an old office in Morristown that I had a similar situation to this, and what I did is I put a large dry well that I don't know whether Kathy, I know Kathy has addressed this, but there's a large dry well there where you can get a lot of the snow in there as it melts. So the parking was an issue. Yes, the turning was an issue, but the thought here was that if we take the two cars down the driveway and pull straight into those garages, Mike, as he said, he has I think an old MG and something else that he wanted to park in the other ones. The other thing that we did, if we can go to the next page, the first floor. The issue with the elevations of the earth there and the driveway. So the first floor was about, like I said, probably about 30 inches down from the first floor, which didn't matter when it was separated. But once we decided to put a door that connected into the house, what I did is I elevated with the retaining walls along the easterly side. So I brought it up so that it made a less steep driveway. And I think it really, and I'm very concerned about the neighbors' runoff. We decided to design a really nice brick wall. You can grow ivy on it, and whether or not we get a landscape architect to maybe address some of this stuff, we'll talk to Mike about that. And where the walls are higher than, I think, 30 inches, we will put railings, so that a railing at 36, so it complies with the International Building Code, the New Jersey edition. So we've considered the danger of a wall. We've taken the initiative to put a fence up on that so that no one will fall through that. We allowed an area in there too for planting along the drive between the wall and the driveway. And so what happens is as you come down the driveway, instead of it being so steep, it comes down and it plateaus quicker, and it creates a really nice plateau area in there so that we control all of the runoff water there, and we create, yes, a wall along the easterly side, but we've certainly taken consideration in what the materials are going to be so that it's nice. So here again, we have the existing first floor.
If you would explain to the board a little bit more about why you bumped the garage out, what that achieves.
I'll get to that. Yeah. Okay. So we did bump the garage out, the existing garage out 3'8". And what it did is it allowed it to become a normal garage where you have approximately 2 feet plus or minus on each side of the garage doors. You also have about 2 feet on the center. You can get 9-foot doors in there, and it really feels like a modern day garage instead of the previous garage.
Are the current doors less than 9 feet?
Yes, they're less than 9 feet, and they're very tight on each side, left and right wall. And the center portion of the between the two doors is only about a foot. I mean, if somebody ran into it, it would cave. So then, if you go to where the front door is now, what we wanted to do, Mike asked me to create more of an entranceway, and he really didn't want us to change the overall look and feel of the front elevation. And when we get to that, we'll talk about it. And then as we get to each elevation, we'll talk about why I did what we did. So the front elevation, we wanted to put a front porch. We spaced the windows correctly on the front elevation. We're using the same whitewash brick throughout the building. And then on the inside, you can see the existing living room it's approximately the same size. The foyer we made wider. We created a pantry and a hall and a doorway that comes in through the garage. And so we have walk-in closet, pantry, and a powder room, which is very typical of most normal houses. As you walk in through the garage, you'd want to have a powder room, you want to have a pantry, and you want to have a walk-in closet if you can. So then the other thing is I'm always concerned about the feeling of light traveling through the structure. So what I did is we put a volute on the stair. There's an opening that goes down to the lower level. It goes all, and it follows up continuously through to the second floor. So as you go up, there's a nice rail, and it's open from floor to floor. The kitchen we expanded. Mike has grown children, and I'm sure they're going to want to come and stay with them. And so I like to create ensuite relationships in the bedrooms so that I have 4 sons, and they're 27 to 36, and I sure will like it when they come with their children and their spouses. So that's how I designed it. The existing den pretty much stayed the same. Now, when it comes to the office is about 7 or 8 feet deep, and it's long. The geometry of it is not good at all. There's a building that I used to occupy across from Whole Foods. It's now West End Realty, and there's a room on the left-hand side of it that's very similar to this, and it has really great windows. It's really light. It's got a great transparency, and it has a geometry that works well for an office. And despite the comments from the attorney about wanting to turn things into bedrooms, Mike, in any conversation that I've had thus far, there's not even a hint of making that into a bedroom or the pool house. The idea of the pool house was I like to take the heaters and I like to take the pool equipment and put it inside. So you don't have noises coming from them. it maintains them, it keeps the longevity of them, and it keeps them out of the way of everything. So that was the thought behind that. But having a bathroom down there and a shower, the idea of the shower is if you come in and there are guests that are going to be there for dinner and they want to take a shower because they've been swimming in chlorine, they have the opportunity to do that. And the other part of it is it's just a nice place. If it's really, really hot outside, it's nice to have a place right adjacent to the pool where you can go in and cool off. So that was the planning behind that.
Going back to the office for just a second.
Yeah.
The square footage of the existing office and the square footage of the new office, how do they compare?
They're pretty close. They're pretty close. The geometry is different. We thought that moving that office to the rear, rather than keeping it where it is in the front and pushing it out. First of all, yeah, there was an issue with the tree. I think taking another look at all the other trees that are on the neighbor's property and maybe having an arborist come in and take a look at them so that there's a good dialogue as to truly what's going on there. And I don't want to jeopardize any trees, and I totally understand the neighbors' concerns about all that stuff. I don't think their privacy. I didn't design this new office to say, oh God, I think we were making it a lot better than keeping it the way it was. And, obviously, we had comments that maybe that's not the case. And I totally appreciate your comments. But I think, we can take a look at that and see where the neighbors' trees are and really do a study on it and find out if they're affected and what we can do about that. Mike explained the octagon. So before we get to the octagon, there's the space between the kitchen and the octagon. The spatial relationship between where you park, coming in this rather transparent hallway, let's call it, into the rear yard. It's been something that Mike has talked to me about the entire time. He wanted a place for him to be. He wanted part of it to be covered. I introduced the fireplace to it. I think it's a really nice feature from the dining room. You can see straight out. It's on axis with the dining room. The stair going down, we'll address it more later on, but we would put lighting in that would be appropriate, maybe low dim lighting on the risers. So most likely the neighbors wouldn't even see them. And then down below, it brings us down to a patio where we go to the pool. So that's first floor.
Again, can Mr. Dorn address a little bit why we're
Okay.
5 feet from the side? Or
Okay.
what the geometry was that you had in mind?
So we had to have a stair that goes down and we had to have a stair that goes up. And Mike said he really needed it so that he didn't feel like you walked into the garage and then went up another set of stairs in the middle of the garage. So it kind of pushed us over. The dimension of the garage, it's 22.7 on the inside. So it's about 24 feet on the outside. It's a very normal size garage that we would do. I'm sure if anybody was asked what a normal width of the garage would be for a 2-car garage would be 24 feet. So we didn't make that any bigger. And we really did try to tighten up the stairs as much as we possibly could. And so that's the residual of what we had. So on the second floor, yes, there are 4 bedrooms, but they're really not good at all. So when we expanded the garage 3'8", it gave us a really good opportunity to put really nice dormers on that roof. We raised the plates, so we raised the walls of the area above the garage, and the walls of the garage now were raised up because we changed the topography for the courtyard, the driving courtyard. So when we did that, it gave us a really great opportunity to put bedroom 3 in there, create a master bedroom that Mike had asked us about, wanted walk-in closets, wanted a separate bathroom, double vanities, which most master bedrooms have, at least any ones that I designed. And then the second bedroom, number 2, we were able to get a bathroom and some nice closets in there. And again, you can see the open area adjacent to the stairway. So there was light coming all the way down from the second floor down to the basement area. It really creates a nice open feeling. And Mike wanted the lower level to feel as finished as the rest of it, so that as you go down through to the basement and you go to the pool house down below, it all works together. Okay. So if we go to the elevations, from the elevations, you can see that the carriage house, if you're in the front of the house and you're standing in front of the front door, you really wouldn't see the garage, the carriage house behind. As you go eastwardly, you will see about 9 feet of the garage if you're standing right on the corner of the expanded existing garage. So that was important to us. I think if you take a look at the elevations, we really wanted to look like no changes were made to it, that it looked like it's existing, and that was really what we tried to do. You can see the office on the right-hand side. And again, if in passing between now and the next meeting, if anybody's going by Whole Foods, they can take a look to the right and see West End, what that room will look like. And it's a really pleasant room, and it's not big. So that's the front. The elevation on the westerly side, you can see in order for us to expand the main part of the house, the ridge of the house was in plane raised up about 5 feet. We kept the general aesthetic and materials of the house, again, whitewashed brick. The fenestrations, I think, are appropriate with the right cut lights, the Muntin bars. And I think the office has a real attraction to it. It has a slightly pitched copper roof, which, as you know, goes from the red copper look to the brown to the green patina. And then you go back towards where the veranda is, and yeah, we have a fireplace in there. You need to have a chimney there. And what we did is we tried to bring down the stairway down as close to mimicking the topography as we could, so as not to create huge retaining walls, but construct these stairs the way they're properly built, so that they don't heave. So you can see the carriage house is pretty far away, and it's pretty much from the westerly side. It's pretty much blocked. I think that's all I can say about that one. Okay, so this next sheet is a section through the hallway between the kitchen and the octagon room. So you can see it's very much like what's there, brick structure. The chimneys are basically the same, although we have corbelled them to get them in a position like the main chimney in the front. We corbelled it to get in the center, right directly above the main door, so it looks appropriate, which it does not right now. You can see the new garage, the new garage doors in the existing garage, which has the dormers above it, and it has a copper roof, which I don't think anybody that's here tonight would really see, but it's a nice look. And then there's the existing doors that are in the family room, which is one step down from the rest of the building. We put a nice copper flared roof in there. The back now is is the veranda. You can see the three arches along the bottom. And those arches are stepped in about maybe 3 or 4 feet. So there's a really good shadow line that occurs there. And the idea of that was that the reinforced concrete slab, that's the terrace, it gives us an opportunity so there's not just a big wall there, and so that there's these arches that are set in, and it's a great place for, if it's a really hot day and you want to put a lounge in there, you can. I think the only people that this affects would be the folks that are directly behind them. The neighbor to the east, really, I don't think sees a whole lot of the veranda. And I do appreciate the neighbors to the west saying that they would like to make sure that their privacy is not interrupted. And I think maybe a good conversation with Mike, and if they need me to be there too, we can kind of maybe tape it out and see what that's like, if that helps. And then there's a really nice bay in the back, on the lower level of the carriage house.
That's the pool house.
Pool house, yeah. And it's just a nice area to go in. I mean, I don't design ugly. I try to make things look good without, having an issue. But I don't design just one elevation. I design 4 of them, and I spend equally amount of time to detail them so that whether you're east, west, south, or north, all the elevations look good. This next one is a section through looking from the east towards the building. You can see that the overall mass of the existing house is pretty similar. There were some bad additions done where they just built, typically on a really good building like this that was built in the 30s with great brick and detail to that. Because it's hard for most builders and architects to figure out how you take the veneer off and you everything together and then whitewash it again, so that at the end of the day, it looks like it was built in the 30s. That's what we achieved to do, or strive to do. So I said to Mike, I said, listen, that stuff looks terrible. We have to deal with it. So he said, okay. So what we did is we raised the ridge, and we have really nice gables there, and we trimmed them appropriately, and we matched the brick. And again, I think if you take a look at those 2 chunks of the building, the massing isn't that far off. And you can see kind of how inappropriate the garage looks because it's so much smaller and lower than the house. I think the bedroom addition above the garage makes it look much more appropriate than it does now. And then again, talking about the space between the house and the octagon room, it's a really nice, as you drive in there, it's very transparent from the parking court through the building to where the veranda is. And we wanted to have a transparency throughout the whole building, so that light, air, the flow of all that stuff works pretty well. I guess this is the eastern elevation. And again, it's part of the other elevation, only now we've added the carriage house to it. So the existing garage is now 14 feet from the property line. We have enough room to put a nice wall in there where we can still get vegetation in there. We really lowered the slope of the driveway so that as you come in, you're not driving down on a severe angle, and then it continues off to the rear of the property. So now, as you go down, we created a plinth in there so that instead of where it just continued to go down and it was not controlled in any way, shape, or form, is now controlled by the carriage house, the retaining walls, and the rest of the building. So, I think that works really well. And I think whether or not, I think the board has to think whether or not the carriage house, with its whether it's 5 feet off the property line or 10 feet or 15 feet, I don't think the perception that folks to the east have are going to change, but it would definitely severely handicap the interior circulation of the house, and that's why we did it. You need a minimum of 5 feet for fire code, so it's not a magical number. It's a number that's a code issue. And then if you go to the, we did some renderings, and you can see all the different elevations.
Dave, I don't think we have the renderings, right?
I don't think you do, no, but it can be part of this exhibit, though, if it's going in all at one.
That part, are those renderings attached to the architectural plans, or are they separate from the?
They're separate. We had to have people do them, so we just got them done probably 2 or 3 days ago.
Okay,
Father,
so
we can do whatever you want, we can mark.
Yeah, why don't we mark the rendering
So
sheet here as A2.
I mean, I
And,
think if you,
Mr. Dorn, you can just give us the date on there. I can't really see it that
12,
far.
11, 23.
12/11/23, and those are just renderings of the various elevations on the proposed house, right?
correct.
4 per sheet. Is it just one sheet?
It's one sheet, yes. So if you take a look to the upper left-hand corner, I mean, if you look at the house again, if you're standing in front of the front door, you're not seeing the carriage house. To the right, you're seeing the new office, which is now a pretty good distance back from where the other one was, and the geometry of the other office was terrible. The elevation of it was terrible, and now you have something that, to me, is a really nice looking structure. And as you move to the right, going westward, you start to see the veranda. You're not going to see the octagon in the back. And as you go eastward, as you go down the street, if you're turning your head far to the right, or if you're coming up the other way, turning your head acutely, you'll see the carriage house that's 40 feet away from the rear side of the existing garage. The drawing or the rendering to the right is the westerly elevation, which again, the stairway really isn't a retaining wall. It's a stair. And I mean, I think that it looks really good. We didn't try to make it a big, huge thing. I understand the neighbors concerned about the trees, and I think we can address that, take a look at it and study it. The office looks a lot better. The geometry of it, it's the perception from the neighbors from the west, my opinion, is that it's a lot nicer than if you have that long, 20-something foot rectangle that makes no sense at all. The chimney is brick. The veranda is nicely done. It's all transparent, has nice columns, nicely detailed columns, and we consider all that stuff. Then if you look to the left, it's the right, the rear elevation, and you can see the arches that are underneath there, and they penetrate through. It's a really nice feature, and again, they create a shadow line, so it does mitigate some of the feel of the height of the building. The stairway on the left is as minimal as we could get it. We made it comfortable width-wise. We have a metal railing on it. I think it's appropriate. And then the elevation to the east. I mean, quite frankly, I think the rendering is really beautiful, that's notwithstanding the neighbor's concerns. Not at all. I'm not minimizing that, but the juxtaposition between the garage that's expanded to the front, the house to the further away, and then the carriage house. I don't think Mike would have any problem with taking a look at the landscaping there and the trees, that we can narrow what trees are on Mike's property. And okay, we can take a look at making sure that the tree survey that we have identifies the trees that are on neighbor's property and the trees that are on Mike's property, and address what we can do. And I don't know whether get a landscape architect in there, either now or later on, to address what we can do, rather than leaving it up to Mike saying, hey, we're going to do the right thing, which I truly believe he would. But I know you guys want to have proof is in the design, right? So I'm sure he would agree with doing that. So I was charged with fulfilling the scope of work that Mike wanted. I certainly didn't go out to try to offend any neighbor or deal with their privacy. In fact, I'm very concerned about that. And I think that if there's further conversations about this, maybe on site with the neighbors, not that I'm trying to change their mind, but I think if maybe we have some dialogue that's not, adversarial. I don't think Mike has an adversarial bone in his body.
Speak up, please.
Yes, I don't think Mike has an adversarial bone in his body.
Let's
He's not.
let's keep it on point as the architecture,
Okay.
not comment
well,
about another
yeah, but
witness.
it's important because it's the relationship that I have with Mike.
I
and it's the
understand that.
conversations that we've had. So anyway, I think and then, okay, then if you go, there are some other renderings, and this is a 3D rendering that kind of depicts what we've done. So you
So
can.
Dave, we're going to mark this one A3. Is that also 1211?
So one of the important
Wait,
things
Mr.
here.
Dorn, just give me a second.
Okay.
Is that also
be a
dated?
second one with A4.
That's
Okay.
right, A4.
Let's talk about this one first. A3, is it dated 12/11/23?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and Mr. Dorn, just with respect to this one, A3, just briefly describe what it is for the record.
Okay, it's a rendering of the architectural drawings. So you can.
Of the front elevation?
Of the front elevation, yeah. So
Okay.
you can see that, we depicted how the driveway comes down. It maintains the slope that it has for the first, 30 feet to the, let's just say, to the sidewalk. And then you can see how it plateaus out. And all the drainage is towards the dry well that's in the center. So none of that water ever goes anywhere else except for going into the dry well and then gets dealt with by Kathy. The retaining wall is on the left. We're trying to keep as much vegetation as we can between the sides. And again, I think taking a second look and really kind of getting exacting drawings as to what's existing landscape wise and driveway wise can maybe help out that problem. This next one kind of shows the relationship, not kind of, it does show the relationship between the neighbor's house and Mike's house with the renovations done to it. You can see again how.
Okay, so Mr. Dorn, before we get too far, A4,
Yep.
and
A4.
is that also dated 12/11/23?
Yes.
And then is this just a rendering of an aerial, can we
Yeah,
say, of the
Right.
property?
It's a bird's eye
proposed?
view of the architectural drawings, the rendering of that. You can see the house to the west. You can see part of the house to the east.
See the trees?
You see the trees and all the vegetation that's there. So, again, I think we tried to solve Mike Ewing's scope of work. We tried to do it in as nice a way as we could. We want it to be contextual. Like I said, I've done a number of projects in Springbrook, and it's a really nice area of town. And I think this would be a real good project for the area.
So, Mr. Dorn, looking at A4, the structure to the left, right, that would be to the east.
Right.
Um, Is that accurately represented on this? Is that from an aerial or
It's
did you just
from
place
a
it
drone.
from a drone
Mhm.
photo? Okay, and are you able to tell us about how far that structure is from the property line?
The neighbors?
Yes.
I don't have a survey to that, but I can say I would say it's at least 20, 25 feet. I didn't trespass and try to get that.
Do you have any similar shot renderings from the other perspective
From the west?
from the west?
No, but we can generate that for next time if you want.
So just to clarify, there's two, to Mr. Aller's question about how far from the property line, you said 20 to
I
25.
pointed
Now, are
just
you
to-
referring to what's existing on that front part of the house or the new addition in the back is 20 to 25
Well, I
feet?
think we're talking from the neighbor to the east,
Right.
from there to the carriage house.
Okay, from the
Yeah,
carriage.
so there would be
To the
20,
property
20
line.
To the property
to the
line.
property line.
Property
and then-
line to that neighbor's
and then
house.
Another 5 feet to the carriage house and another 14 feet to the expanded existing garage.
Thank you.
Since we have Ms. Muller coming and laying things out like that is her forte, we'll
Sure.
have all that checked.
Sure.
That'd be helpful.
Okay, I think that's it.
So this house, when it was originally constructed, predated the zoning ordinances?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to make clear to the board, how realistic or how consistent is A4 and A3 with your plans?
Pretty accurate. They're renderings, but they're the folks that do the renderings, they take our architectural plans and they marry it to this. Technology is pretty crazy, but it's nice.
Do you have a drone picture that would show us that house to the east and how far back it goes on the property?
I don't know what all the
I'm trying to see like where your proposed carriage house is.
Yeah.
All right, if you drew a straight line from the carriage house east to that adjacent home, right, is the home opposite the carriage house?
No,
In
no.
that picture, it looks like it's
No,
stepped forward.
No, that house is forward. It's
Okay.
probably, it's probably, I didn't study the neighbor's house next door other than to,
That's why I was asking if you had a picture of it.
yeah, we might.
Okay.
We try to take the pictures of what we thought would represent what we're trying to show.
Board members, questions?
A question on, we see a number of applications for outdoor fireplaces, et cetera. The stack on that fireplace, what was the height on that in total?
We have to be 2 feet higher than the ridge, 10 feet away. So, you have that? I mean, I can tell you probably.
Looks like one of the larger ones we've seen, so I'm just curious.
I'd probably like that 16 feet from the terrace floor.
The terrace floor is about elevation 96, and it looks like the top of the chimney is probably around 120.
So
24 feet.
Yeah.
So
that's
24 foot tall. Because I noticed in your testimony, you made comment about how you took sort of pains to not put a big retaining wall for those steps that are coming down to sort of marry the topography.
Right.
But when I look at a chimney, a sort of stack that high, I mean, it's almost like a retaining wall just going up vertical versus horizontal. It's a lot of material. So I was just curious.
We could make it as narrow as we could, and I could take a look at it and see where 2 feet above the ridge is, and if we can lower it. I mean, there are standards and codes that
Sure.
we can certainly look at that, though.
Thank you for clarifying.
If you eliminated the bump out on the office, you've got the office a little bump towards the property line. What would be the remaining dimensions of the office?
10 by 14.
It would ruin the design. I'm not saying it wouldn't still be a good little building, but again, if you look at the building that I did across from Whole Foods, you can see how the geometry goes out. It just, the cornices return. You have really nice pilasters on the side. The fenestrations really work. That's why we did it. We didn't do it just, and we didn't make it just bigger. We did it with the box bay on it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about side yard.
Right.
He didn't answer the question.
What's that?
3'6".
So
The
what he
size
was
of the
asking
office
is
without
if
the
you
bump
took
up.
that box off, Peter,
Yeah.
what would the size of the office?
Oh, the
be?
size? Yeah. So it'd be 10 feet.
10 by 14?
Yeah,
14 and a
10,
half.
10 by 15.
14 and a half.
Yeah,
Yeah,
looks like
10 by
that.
14 is
Yeah.
Pardon?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And on the covered veranda, is that enclosed structure?
No, it's all open.
Because I saw on the side rendering, it looks like there's glass there.
No, it's all open.
It's all open.
Yeah, Mike wanted it open. The only reason he wanted that is he said from day one, he said, I want a structure there that I want that terrace to be partly roofed and partly open. So that's,
Yeah, because
No.
I thought it was open, but then I saw the glass panes in the
no, you think you're looking, maybe that is a drawing, goes through the veranda
It looked like
to the door,
glass.
to the doors beyond. Let me just take a look.
That's all I want to make sure that was clear.
No. You're talking about from the back, Paul?
No, from the side.
Oh, from the side. Oh, yeah.
'Cause it looks, I
That's-
see the glass there and it
No,
looks like
that's,
glass.
that's the building beyond. That's the hallway.
Oh, okay.
That's about 30 feet away.
All right. What is the size of the covered veranda? Just in, because there's no place where it's like laid out specifically as to what the dimensions of that is.
Yeah,
It's about
What's the
21,
veranda?
about
Yeah.
21 feet by
30.
25 feet.
Veranda
The
is
covered-
Sorry, I'm sorry, 3 people were talking at once.
It's not fully covered.
Right, but what is the
21
por-
by 25.
21 by 25?
Right.
Okay. And there's no way you can make that shorter, move it further off the property side yard?
The veranda?
Yeah. Move that further away?
Again,
Hmm?
I'm not saying that we can't. I'm just saying that we had a geometry where we could get a dining room and a seating area, which would be expected there for under a veranda like that. And that's why we came up with the dimensions.
Okay. All right. Any other board members with questions? Members of the public with questions?
Good evening, Mr. Dorn. Thank you
And
for your
your
testimony.
name for the record, please.
Robert McBriar, attorney for Margaret Sellers, who again is the property owner and resident to the easterly side of the proposed project. Mr. Dorn, in preparing your plans, did you have occasion to review the township zoning table?
Sure.
And do the number of variances required to make this project work for the site, does that concern you at all?
You're a land use attorney. I'll answer it this way, that I've had projects that had 14 variances and 2 variances. And we didn't set out to have 7. We didn't set out to have 2. We designed it to fulfill what Mike Ewing's program was. And as a result of that, we have the 7 variances that we have to address.
Do you know if there are any other properties in this zone, the RA15 zone, that have a structure similar to this carriage house? We have a lower level pool area with a wet bar, toilet facility, above that a garage, and above that a bedroom?
No. No. But the topography is significant at this property.
How many residences in the area, in the Springbrook area, have 4-car garages on site?
I don't know. Can't answer that one.
The design calls for windows on the easterly side. I believe I saw them in the renderings on the pool house, the garage, the bedroom. Could you refer to one of your renderings and provide me with an accurate count of the number of windows that will be on the easterly side? And again, that includes all improvements. So the existing garage, the house, the carriage house, and the like.
Okay, sure. We'll get to it. There are 5 in the carriage house. And then if you look at the expanded garage, there are 2 on the first level, and the half round window up above is a combination of 3 window units. Same with the one up at the ridge in the gable of the main house.
When you say it's 3 window units, what do you mean?
It's 2 casements and a half round.
Okay. But it's one window.
It's one unit.
Okay.
But I think your question was how many windows?
Yeah, I want to appreciate, and I appreciate your testimony about light and whatnot entering the home. But that has an impact on neighbors and their privacy. So I want to get a better understanding for the number of windows on this facade that would be, that exist on this proposed plan.
Okay, so
And the next question, which you might be able to address, is for each level, what height will these be located?
well, the head height is what.
Well, before we do that, let's answer the first question, just the number of
okay.
windows, and then we can
Okay,
get the
so
height.
5 in the carriage house, 3 in the improved garage, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the main house, if you counting each area as one. And then you have the French doors have side lights, transoms, and so there's a set of French doors. There's 2 side lights. There's 4 transoms and another window.
And that last description, just so it's clear in the record, is the connection between the existing house and the dining room.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're obviously, Bob, so it's, the carriage house is at 5 feet, the garage is at 14 feet, and then the house is further back, and then that link is another 2 or 3 feet back.
In the carriage house, there's a window up here at the, is that an attic area? And let the record reflect, I'm pointing or referring to proposed left elevation on the proposed carriage house. The uppermost limit, there appears to be a small square window. Is that an attic area?
We have to work out the HVAC system. So it could be a vaulted ceiling, or it could be the attic.
And will that area be finished?
Well, if it's a vaulted ceiling, yeah, it'll all be finished as part of that room, but if not, it won't be finished.
But there wouldn't be any crawl space or storage area. That whole area is open. Is that correct?
If it's a vaulted ceiling, yeah, it's all open, but if it's a an attic area, then it's going to be, for heating, ventilating, and cooling.
But nothing that would increase the square footage for the livable, gross livable area. Do you know what the total gross livable area is for the entire proposal?
The new?
Correct.
Clarissa will check on that, see if we can come up with that.
Thank you.
Oh, so the total, including the garage and the
Well,
basement?
since I didn't, I could swear her in
You know,
if you want.
we either
but-
have to have you testify as that.
It's on the first page.
Oh, my God. Okay. 5406 is not including the garage or the basement.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
5406, not including the garage or the basement, which are typically not included in the square footage. It's only habitable space.
So that number, the gross livable area is 5,406 square feet, not including the garage or the basement.
Yes.
Okay. The plans call for a bathroom in the pool house. My prior question to the applicant was how many fixtures there would be. Could you clarify that for the
Sure.
record?
Yeah, happy to. Okay. There's a shower and a toilet and a sink.
Is there a bath, or is that just sort of a shower? And how close is that bathroom facility to the property line on the easterly side?
Well, the wall's probably somewhere around a foot thick because it's a masonry wall, and then it has a stud wall, so it's 12 plus another 4, so 16. So it's about 6'6" plus or minus.
6 foot 6 inches to the property line.
Plus or minus, yeah.
And the retaining wall on the easterly side, is that located right at the property line?
Yes.
Okay. The plans, I see an AC unit, which appears to be located to the left of the pool house, or between the pool house and the easterly lot line. Is that going to be mounted on a concrete pad, or what will that be mounted
No,
on?
they're relocated. They're relocated to the inside of the property, so they're not going to be anywhere near that 5-foot setback.
Okay.
That, as where we originally talked about, the window wells and the basement windows are also eliminated.
And I see in the pool house, there's refrigerator, wet bar, dishwasher, sink, perhaps a beverage fridge or something to that effect. Are those amenities, in your experience, usually located within a setback area or so close to a property line?
It's, in my experience, is that they're located within the structure, and there really is no consideration as to whether they're within the setback or not. It's whether or not the building is within the setback.
And the reason I ask is from a design standpoint, this particular area, the way I observe this plan is that it encourages people to gather or congregate in that particular area. So you can understand the concern of a nearby property owner where such a facility, including a bathroom, pool utilities, a wet bar, and gathering space, is located within the setback area, so close to a lot line.
Well, I think the way we designed it, and we've done this an awful lot, is that we've taken all the pool equipment and all the pool noise, the heater, all the pumps and everything else, and we've moved them to the inside so that you don't see them and you don't hear them. I think to have a gathering place on the inside, I mean, there are no windows that face easterly, so and the entire building is going to have foam insulation, so it's almost impossible for even if you're having a party, to have, to hear that from inside the building if the doors and windows are closed. And I think it's a very appropriate area, because if you're at the pool and you have to go to the bathroom, you can just run into that area and it's right there. And like I said before, listen, I had a lot of women in my life, 3 sisters, my wife, everybody else. We have a pool. They want to get out of the pool, and before they go, whatever, they want to take a shower so they get the chlorine off them. So it's really a pretty innocent bathroom to have. It's not to create any living quarters or anything like that. It is strictly a pool house, and it's where, you can go in there and if it's listen, New Jersey, we get those really hot August days where it's, 90 something degrees with 90% humidity. And you want to jump in the pool and hang out by the pool, but you don't want to be out there all the time. So that's the only intention is that it's for that. It's for Mike and his family and friends to enjoy it.
In your experience, is the size of the pool that's been located in the rear yard, is that an average size pool or is that an above average size pool for the Morristown
It's
area?
an average to maybe a little bit small, but I mean, I think if you categorize it as average, I think that would be appropriate.
The ridge line for the proposed pool house, will that be higher than the ridge for the existing garage?
Let me check. I think we have a drawing for that.
Yeah, that's a good, this is a good drawing. So
Oh, yeah, so you can see it is slightly higher.
okay.
Yeah.
In your opinion and experience, does this proposal provide an adequate buffer to the adjacent property on the easterly side?
I think it will.
In what way?
Once if it's approved, then we go through what vegetation we're going to put in there. As Mike had said, he's going to do anything that he needs to make it, to satisfy the neighbors' needs.
And if I can refer you to the proposed first floor plan, I think that highlights the limited space between the carriage house, the garage, and the easterly lot line. Where would you propose such landscaping to be placed?
Well, first of all, I think on the carriage house, because you do have the planting beds there, I mean, we really like to put ivy growing up there. Any space in between, and I think, any kind of negotiated area where the neighbor would agree to put any large trees that he wants. And any place where Mike would have it on his property. So I think it would be hopefully a combination of the two that would satisfy everybody.
And I appreciate your willingness to meet with my client, I assume my client and others, because the plans that we've reviewed, at least it indicates to me on the plans that 5 substantial trees are going to be removed as part of the improvements being built on the easterly side. And that's going to have a dramatic impact on privacy. Would you agree?
Well, what I would say to that is that, between now and the next meeting, let's revisit the tree survey, make sure that we're all talking about the same thing and it's accurate. And then yeah, I think we could have that conversation. But then we all know what we're talking about.
I appreciate your testimony and your answers, Mr. Dorn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public with questions of Mr. Dorn? Mr. Wade? Richard Wade, 46 Springbrook Road. Mr. Dorn, what is the view from the bedroom of the pool house onto Miss Sellers' yard?
Her backyard.
I'm sorry?
Her backyard.
So if I'm standing in that bedroom, looking out of one or two of those windows, I'd be looking right into her yard, correct?
Into her yard, yeah.
And I would be 5 feet from the property line.
It is 5 feet, yeah.
And there's no tree that would block that view at the moment.
I don't know what trees are there right now. I'm not a landscape architect and I didn't do the tree survey. So I think, again, once the tree survey is updated and we know what's there, then somebody, either me or anybody, will be able to answer that. I can't do it right now.
Are you saying you haven't been to the property?
I've been to the property many times.
Well, then wouldn't you know what's there?
I'm an architect.
I'm not asking you for a botanist's opinion. I'm just asking you for a view.
My concern is structures. If you had asked, if I had that question for me before I came here, I would have gone over and looked at it. But my concern isn't, that's a landscape architect, not me.
Well, if your concern is the structure, what extent did you review the zoning code before developing your plan?
I have my HHS license.
I'm sorry?
I have my HHS, ICS, construction officials license, and an RSC license. So I know the codes pretty well.
There's no question you're an excellent architect, so I'm not impugning your integrity or your ability, but the question is, you are developing a plan for a piece of property, a very specific piece of property. And obviously, your plan, as drawn and presented tonight, includes a number of variances.
That's correct.
And did you consider the fact that these variances are required?
I always consider that.
And did you try to eliminate variances?
Yes, I did.
And this is the best you could do under the circumstances?
Having the scope of work that was presented to me, this is what we came up with.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Having the scope of work that Mike Ewing presented to me, this is what we came up with.
So basically, your client came to you and said, this is what I want to do on my property, and then you implemented that direction.
I can give you an example. So the whole question about the parking court and the driveway and the turning radius and all that stuff and the retaining wall. It's the only place where we can put 2 more car garage, creating a parking court and having almost mirror image garages. So that was a given. The house is where it is. So there's X amount of feet from the property line to where we pushed the house to. The carriage house had to be an extension of that, so that, and it facilitates coming down the driveway and being able to drive right into those 2 garages. Then you have a 40-foot parking court that you can turn around in. So yeah, I considered an awful lot. I considered that it was going to be 5 feet off the property line. I considered that, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to deal with stormwater runoff? I consider all that stuff. And I'm very concerned about the neighbors in spite of what anybody might think. I was charged with the scope of work to design what Mike needed. The parking court and the garages there's no other place where they could go. None. If I could put them someplace else, I would. We have to create, everybody, you're talking about the 3-story garage, the building in the back. It would be a retaining wall anyway, because the delta between the first floor of the house and where the pool's going to be is probably plus or minus 10 feet. So whether you have a retaining wall that runs across the whole back, if you eliminated the garages, you'd still have that wall there. You'd still need to create a better parking court than you have now. So there still would be a retaining wall. And I would think that the neighbor to the east would want a retaining wall there because we control everything there. So there's no issue with any kind of water runoff.
Did you ever consider the impact of this project on the neighborhood?
Of course I did.
And?
I do it all the time.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
And? You don't think there's an impact in the neighborhood?
No, I don't. I think what we've done here is, as I satisfied Mike's needs, I think that we tried to do as much as we could to create a really nice looking structure. And I think after the point, if this were all built, I had an Italian mother, and she always said whenever I tried to do anything at our house, she said, "Oh, no, no, no." And I would do it. And she goes, "I couldn't live without it." I think at the end of the day, if all the trees are planted to satisfy everybody, satisfy everything, and I'm not saying that there's not some give and take on certain things. We're here to do that. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a really, really beautiful place.
Did you ever tell your client to find another piece of property to build his mega mansion?
It's not my position to do that. It's not a mega mansion. You want to see a mega mansion? I'm designing a 34,000 square foot house in Bucks County. That's a mega mansion on 78 acres. That's a mega mansion.
And in Springbrook, what's a mega mansion?
I don't think there are mega mansions.
Okay.
I think this fits nicely with it. If there wasn't such, if people weren't so adversarial, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be, and we talk about certain things and you have a really good understanding of what I've designed here, I think that would create a different atmosphere and everybody would have a different understanding. And maybe there'd be dialogue about maybe where we could change something. But
You're now willing to change something?
what?
You're now willing to change
I'm
something?
not willing to change it. It's up to my client.
So you're following your client's instructions?
Yes. What I'm saying though, and you're being a bit adversarial, is that I think if everybody got together and we got out there and we roped off all the walls and where they are and what the topography's like and why there would be a huge retaining wall, even if we didn't have the garages there, I think there'd be a different understanding and just have a friendly dialogue about it.
Are you suggesting there hasn't been a friendly dialogue?
I'm suggesting that most of the time in cases like this, everybody is irritated, they don't want change, and they don't want to listen.
I'm asking you specifically as to this project.
What's that?
I'm asking you specifically as to this project. Has there been a friendly dialogue? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Thank you.
I didn't talk to
You've
anybody.
answered. You've answered the question.
Good.
Now, have you ever suggested to your client that his plan was too much for this property?
No.
Is that your job to suggest that or not?
If I thought what he was asking for wasn't, I would tell him.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
If I thought he was doing something that I didn't think was appropriate, I would tell him.
So everything you think that he asked you to do is appropriate?
Yeah.
And the 5 foot on the one side, the 7 to 8 foot on the other side, violating the both side yards. Have you considered the impact on either neighbor?
Yes, I have.
And what did you come up with? What's your,
I just got done explaining it. I think when it's done, if I could magically put it there and put all the vegetation and make sure that the big trees, the root systems weren't damaged and do the entire thing and it was all whitewashed and the plantings were in, I think people would really love it.
Are there windows in the garage
Yes,
where the cars are parked?
yes.
So there's 2 windows there and there's 2 windows in the bedroom overlooking her patio and her backyard, and you're thinking that's a good idea for
It's
her.
not looking into her bedroom window.
Is it looking into her backyard?
Yes.
If she's sitting on her patio, is she looking up at a 20-plus story building?
It's not a 20-plus story building.
A 20-foot plus storage building?
It's not a storage.
What is it?
building. It's a carriage house.
It's a carriage house, but it's really attached to, it's not really a
Okay.
carriage house. It's a 2-car garage with a basement
Prime
that's,
example of-
excuse me, I'm talking.
Go ahead. What do you have to say?
We're talking about a 2-car garage with a basement that's being used as a living quarters. And we're talking about a bedroom and a bathroom on the 3rd level, correct?
No, you're absolutely wrong.
Okay, tell me how I'm
Well,
wrong.
it's not a living quarter downstairs. It's a pool house. And the other thing is from the garage side, if you have an understanding of it, from the garage side, it's only 2 stories. From the rear, again, it's the topography that's driving it. It's not anything that we're trying to do. We're making that a pool house because we'd have to put a retaining wall in anyway. We'd have foundation that was that deep. But the reality of it, if you take the lower level out of it, you're only about 28 feet tall.
Why don't you take the top of the unit off, take the bedroom off and make it
It
one
would-
level?
It would look out of scale.
I'm sorry?
It would look out of scale.
It would be out of scale?
Yes.
A 1-level garage, a normal 2-car garage would be out of scale.
So you know what? You talk about 2 different things. It's not normal. It's not abnormal. In this case, the scale of it is appropriate for the rest of the building.
From whose viewpoint? Your client or Ms. Sellers?
No, from mine.
From your client's point of view?
No, from me.
For you?
Yes.
In what way? As an architect?
I have a pretty good education.
I'm not saying otherwise. I
have a lot of
respect you as an
Scale and
architect.
Proportion are extremely important to a design. The whole reason why the old garage doesn't look good is because it's low. It's out of scale. And so would that building be out of scale.
Would you agree with me that the existing house is some 90 years old?
Of course I would agree with you.
70 years old? How old do you think the house is?
Mike said 93, you said 90.
All right, so whatever it is, it's more than 20 years old, obviously.
Yeah.
And a number of people have lived there over those term of years, whatever it is, and no one has done any kind of major improvement that you're proposing tonight on behalf of your client, correct?
So what does that have to do with Mike wanting to make changes?
So we want to do what Mike wants, right? Thank you.
Any other members of the public?
Leanne Nugent again.
Anthony Nugent.
There's been a lot of talk about education. So I just want to give my credentials. I get a little emotional
You're
because
welcome
this
to
is,
do that when you make a statement later. That will come. But
is-
right now, we're just
Okay.
questions, and
okay,
your only credential is that you're here to
okay.
make a question.
All right. So one question for you, Mr. Dorn, is that you said about creating the new 40-foot parking court, that it was a good, to push it back, to turn it around. Yet with the increase in the coverage of the driveway, it only shows an increase of 12 square feet. Yet it seems that you pushed it back so that because there's a hardship with the turning radius, but yet I only see an increase of 12 square feet.
Well, when Kathy is here, you can ask her about that, but we are not over on impervious coverage.
I'm just questioning the
Well,
that calculation with
that-
the increase to make it functional was just what was stated was the hardship.
The civil engineer did that, but I can tell you that we're not over on impervious surface.
It's not what you say here.
We're not, right?
It'd be really better if we just did one
Okay.
person at
Oh,
a
yeah,
time.
don't go back
So-
and forth.
That was one of my questions. I had the question earlier to Mr. Ewing about the garage with increasing because he says that the hardship of increasing the garage with, on the current garage is because it doesn't fit two cars well. Yet with I asked in the last to Mr. Ewing, what was the width of that current garage? From my calculations, because it's not spec'd out with the 3.8 foot increase, 25 minus 3.8. So the current garage, I think, is 21.2 feet. Yet the new car, your new car garage is only 22.7 feet. So it's really only slightly 1 foot larger. So I just don't understand the hardship if you're creating almost the similar garage in the back.
I don't think anybody's talking about hardship. We're talking about the reality of the garage. So, and I'm sorry, I don't have my reading glasses, but the inside of the existing garage is 19'8", and we added 3'8" to that. And then what that does is that allows us to get the two 9-foot doors, which is what everybody has now, 9-foot doors. And we have a 2-foot structure, plus or minus between the garage doors, and about 2 feet on each side.
I wish I had 9-foot doors, but my calculations are slightly different, and I did not see that 19 on your drawing. One of the things that your renderings are beautiful, they don't. But one of the things that is really been neglected is the grade left to right on this property. And the whole street goes down like this. Our property goes down sideways into Mr. Ewing's, down into Ms. Sellers. We look down. She looks up. So my deck on my first floor is similar to what.
Yeah, we're gonna get a question
Okay,
in there somewhere.
so, but my question is that that is not being considered. I don't see any renderings considering that grade. I only see front back grade.
So the question is, was that
What-
grade considered?
Right, and
Yeah.
there's been a lot of talk of trees, and if trees were damaged, when these large trees with this grade, has that been considered? Because those trees will never, in our lifetime, grow back.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. So to answer that, I'll answer conversations I've had with Kathy, that the right-hand side, so between you and Mike Ewing's property, that, we're not changing that grade. That grade pretty much stays the way it is. So I don't see that there's any reason why we do that.
Could you go back, though, to the site plan and then also the side rendering from our side? Because I don't understand, the site plan shows a retaining wall around the pool, yet the side view of your rendering does not show any retaining wall around the pool.
There's no retaining wall. But that's a question for Kathy. But the only wall we're talking about is
So,
really.
Mr. Doran, there
The-
is
the
a,
retaining
it says
wall-
proposed 4-foot-high
Oh,
max
would you-
retaining wall along that stairwell.
Yeah, okay.
And
but
there's-
all that is to change, it's more of a curb than a retaining wall. There is some, I think it goes up.
At the back of the
Yeah,
property.
so at the very back, it goes up about.
So this is all ornamental?
It's to create.
I mean,
a
is it
plat-
just,
It's to create a plateau for the pool, because the pool.
so it is a retaining wall
Yeah,
then?
yeah, yeah. No, I stand corrected. Yeah, it's a retaining wall, but it goes from about zero.
Mr. Chairman, this all deals with drainage, which is,
No, it doesn't. It
does.
deals with aesthetics.
Yeah, no, I don't mind.
It-
we can talk
it-
about the aesthetics, but the-
I think that's the question
Well,
is.
then it goes
trying to
into
get the
drainage.
View from her
Okay, that-
side
that is architectural.
to
Let's do
here,
that.
okay?
That's what we're talking, that's what I thought we
Right.
were talking about.
So is the picture, hold on, Mr. Doran, is the picture that's on the screen now, is that the rendering from Mr. and Mrs. Nugent's home?
Well,
Yes.
it is, but I think what Mrs. Nugent's saying is that, from her property, she's higher up. And if you look down, you can see where the fence goes down towards the pool. And you can see that there is a retaining wall that goes from 0 to about 3 feet at the highest point.
Mhm.
And that's to create a plinth for the pool. The pool has to be set level.
I understand that. This was not revealed to us. If you go back to the other rendering that you've shown on the side elevation, it does not show anything beyond the stairs.
That's because the pool, we did the house. We designed the house and the stairs that go with it. We don't design the pool. And I'm sure Kathy has that on her plan.
Okay, so one other question was the functionality of the new office. So the shape, and you've gone on about functionality, yet the office is all glass windows. How is that functional? And when you are now going beyond the setback, and that is more of an impact when it is all glass. How is, from an architectural point of view, how is that functional? All glass, how do you,
I like glass.
I do too,
And
on a
to me-
large
to
piece of
me,
property.
An office is a desk and maybe some shelves and you can have your computer. I design everything when I'm standing in that space, I imagine, am I going to like this? Everybody that has been in my office, my old office on Washington Street, they go in, they walk into that room and they just go, this is amazing. And it's an office.
I totally agree with you. Your designs are beautiful. I've been in your home, it's beautiful. Not on less than half an acre. My question also about the dining room, it's all glass. So when he is entertaining and we have neighbors so close on either side, it would be beautiful on 3 acres. Yes. And there's been a lot of talk about the functionality of the office. So that was my question then. When it's all glass, to me, that is not my personal opinion, functional, beautiful.
I think you can talk to Mike about, some kind of, conifer trees there or something like that, that would definitely mitigate
All right.
that light.
Any other? Oh, could we see a rendering from our side of the view? And, but the renderings also need to be take into account elevation. Come from my deck, which is my deck, the elevation going down the road. Excuse, my deck is on my first floor. It is higher than your second floor.
So Mrs. Nugent, this is questions for
Okay.
Mr. Dorn.
Well, Mr. Ewing
Well, I
was
understand, he
responding.
shouldn't do that either, so questions for Mr. Dorn.
I would love to see renderings with this elevation in mind.
Okay, well, let's not, let's keep on arguing. I think
We're
we're
not-
back.
we're not
You're saying
arguing.
like to see, but-
I don't think we're arguing, Paul.
What?
No, just.
Oh,
discussing.
another question about the renderings. They don't show, I saw Ms. Sellers' house, but like looking forward, the front the colored renderings, they don't show houses. So they don't show fences next door. No, if you go a front, I mean,
It's a rendering.
so it looks like it's on 3 acres.
I think it depicts the.
I mean, we all have photos of our, it does, it depicts your beautiful home.
Let's ask a question.
Are these
Okay.
renderings misleading?
Okay, that's a good.
If I'm
In-
looking
on-
at this.
Okay, that's not, he said he doesn't think they're misleading.
It's a
Okay.
rendering
Okay.
of the architectural plan, that's all
Okay.
it is.
Okay.
It's not a rendering of the neighborhood.
Okay.
We'll try to accommodate you with the rendering from your property. And again, I think if maybe you guys and us could get together, we could talk about that stuff.
We never even
Okay,
had
let's-
the
let's-
opportunity.
I think it'd be a good thing.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public with questions? Okay. Any other board members with questions? Mr. Hanson, any questions?
No.
I had one question. With this retaining wall right along Ms. Sellers' property, how does that get built without going on her property?
Well, we
How does
have-
it get maintained without going on her property?
Well, on the other side, it's not, it's brick, so it doesn't need maintenance. It's all brick. And what you do is you create a reverse cantilever. So the cantilever goes towards Mike's property, it comes straight up, and we brick it with a brick shelf. And then it's not maintained because it's all brick. And she has her grass there or whatever we mutually decide. I mean, personally, I would grow ivy or arborvitaes or whatever it is that grows really well on walls.
Okay. Any other board members with questions? Okay.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and you guys have a party, I think, right? Oh, not tonight?
Not that I'm aware
Oh, I
of.
thought you had a party tonight.
Maybe I wasn't
Let's
invited.
see if we
No,
can.
you weren't
all the time. Well, anyway.
All right.
Happy
So
Hanukkah.
when will this matter continue? We have a date, Sonia? Should be what they're gonna bring.
Just filled up. February.
If we can. Oh, we got the public continuation of the other Springbrook application.
Yeah, February.
That's good. That's gonna be. that's gonna be a- And then then it's on for, and then if we won't get through it on the 29th probably. So it's probably gonna go on to the February meeting, right? Right, so we already got the Springbrook SLOC application on for that night, which will,
Putting both of these on.
well, that's what, that would be a disaster. On that, for that night already? Then we're not going to put this on with the C applications. So then what meeting? So we're in the March? Did you hear that?
I heard March.
March 25th.
And I think you're going to hear me ask for a special meeting then.
The problem is that we have the other Springbrook application for these 16 houses across the street from the firehouse on for the February 22nd. And if last meeting was any indication, this room will be full.
What do you have in January? If I can ask?
What do we got in January?
I have 3 C's application in January.
You wanted
One
to,
is kind of Beltram,
well, that one,
Beltram.
That's when it's going to take a little time.
I think so.
Mhm.
That's the
Can we,
organization.
can we put it on for January, and as we get closer, if something
Something
drops
falls
off,
apart?
we can stay in?
Okay, we can do that, I guess, right?
I don't think.
I'm
nothing's
being
gonna fall off.
optimistic, I know, Sonia.
Yeah, very.
Mm.
Well,
I
we
don't
can
think
put,
nothing's
if we
gonna
put you
fall
on the 29th, it'd be last. You might not get reached. You might not know that until you're all sitting here.
My guess is we'll know earlier in the day.
Well, we'll know if the other 3 are going forward.
Right.
And then you can say, okay, give us a different date. Yeah.
And at that time, if I have to make a request for a special meeting, maybe I'll show up and ask for that or something.
Yeah.
Because March is a long ways out for
Yes.
this size project.
Yeah.
Right.
So
You
January.
should have come in during the summertime. We had,
You want me to put it in January?
So January 29th?
22nd.
22nd, yes.
No further notice?
No further.
We will make that notification. So for the general public, this meeting is being adjourned. It will be continued on January 22nd, 2024 in this room at 7 PM, and there will be no further notices from the applicant. And as you just heard, they may or may not get reached. You're welcome to call the office. The agenda is online, I believe, correct, Sonia?
Correct.
And there may be a posting there if it gets moved again. Okay, but as of now, January 22nd, no further notice.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman,
Just 1 second.
just one final question. It's my understanding that the applicant is going to present expert planning testimony. Would it be possible to request a narrative or summary of that testimony in advance of the next meeting?
Yes, in fact, we just did that with the last one. I think Mr. Tobia is that planner as well. We would like to have Mr. Tobia's planner's report in writing 10 days in
We
advance.
typically provide that. Frankly, I don't think an objector can require it, but if the board wants it.
I would.
The board would like it.
I would
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, it's
Talk
so,
about
it's
that all the
very
time.
helpful, right?
Makes life a lot easier for the board.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
take care, Peter.
And
Have
just
your
one other
family.
thing, if you're going to offer some kind of landscape buffering somewhere, maybe on both sides here, having a plan in advance would be helpful.
Okay. We'll grant an extension then through what date would the board like?
February 29th,
Fine. No way. That's granted.
all right? Okay.
David, can you please provide me those exhibits that were
Yes.
submitted tonight,
Do you
please?
need hard copies or just?
And if you would copy me on that, that'd be helpful too. Thank you. Okay. No,
I
just
have to-
email
because I didn't
copy.
have it.
Yeah, okay. Just email. I don't need a hard copy.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then would Sonia then forward those on to us or?
Okay, other matters. Anybody else want to?
I have a matter. So.
Excuse me.
Well, we still have
Excuse
meetings.
us.
Excuse me, people, we still have a meeting here. People, we're still in a session here, so let's move outside.
Please, outside, we still have a meeting to continue. Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
Ms.
so,
Hackenberg.
yeah, so I was approached by neighbors over at, from the Singh property. I mean, we were out at the farmer's market this weekend, and some neighbors approached me and said nothing's been done over there, even though we ruled against that, it had to be painted and the lights had to come down, and they said nothing was done all summer.
Okay. Send them a letter to remove the poles and give them a time frame to do it because they got the denial.
Well, did we do
And
that?
They got the variance for the wall, remember, with
They
the
got the
condition
variance
to
for the
paint the
wall,
wall,
they
I
didn't get
think.
the variance for the lighting, so the
Yeah.
request is gonna be to take the lighting down.
And
Since this
paint-
looks
And
like
paint
it
the
may-
wall, right?
What?
And paint the wall.
Paint the wall.
Have
Yeah.
they done anything
They
about?
painted the wall?
No.
No,
They have to
haven't.
paint the wall.
I didn't think they had to paint it.
They
Yeah,
did, they
It had
did.
to be
They did.
beige or
I didn't agree to
green or something like that.
But what about the drainage coming from the pool that was going into the park?
Property maintenance was gonna handle that,
Okay,
which is part of the health department. It's not part of me. I'll check and see.
yeah, check on that, because maybe an all-inclusive letter would be nice.
Okay. The way the joint court works is you give them 2 weeks. If they don't respond in 2 weeks, you give them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, if they don't respond, then you give them a summons. That way they've had 2 chances to get it to be corrected and it stands up better in court. I've never lost
Right,
on a zoning because I've given them enough notice to do that. Plus,
Right.
I'm just here now, it looks like we gave them a whole summer's notice and they haven't done
they
it.
didn't do it.
Yep, tomorrow.
Quick question, Dave. Do you know the One Whippany Road, the daycare center? Do they have their CO yet? Are they,
TCO. They had to do some landscaping and a couple other different things. Yeah, we signed off on that probably a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
It's
So
up
they
to them
bond the
if they want to-
landscaping?
What?
They bonded the landscaping?
No, under TCO, we give them 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, it'll be warmer weather. They can put the
for the
landscaping in.
And you don't require them to bond the landscaping to
Not
get
at
the
this
CO?
point.
Okay,
Not at this point.
okay.
We saw it on Thanksgiving. I will say the building looked impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's big, yeah.
I mean, it didn't look terrible.
No, it didn't look terrible. That's correct.
not like that warehouse.
And then just a question for the board. I'm talking to Mr. Aller earlier this evening about for the Springbrook application. I don't know if I'm allowed to sort of just float this notion. Would it be helpful to the board to have, our environmental commission wrote that report for the special meeting. Would it be beneficial? I think it would be to have at least give the environmental commission chair or whoever wrote the report an opportunity to present it. So if we had any questions on it, we could ask about it and then have that opportunity, because we can't reach out to them directly, so to speak, and have sidebar conversations with them. So, if that's something that, the board thinks would be helpful to have them, because there did to be some, disparity between what was presented and what was in the report.
And if so, Sonia can reach out to them and ask them to have a representative at the meeting.
Yeah,
For the slot application?
yes.
Yeah.
For Springbrook?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll reach out to Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second,
All in
third.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there's cookies.